Welcome back, ladies and gents, to episode number 11 of the Coffee and Takes podcast. I'm very privileged today to be joined by Coach Rafaz, who is disrupting the world of football content and also self-improvement content. So the first time I actually came across you, it was by seeing one of your videos on TikTok. And it was a self-improvement video, and I really admired the way you delivered your message. You know, we're obviously in a similar sort of space in terms of the content that we create, but it's very rare to come across someone who you can resonate with. And your message resonated highly with me. So I want to thank you for coming down, brother. It's a joy having you here. If you can introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about what you do right now.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I've been watching your videos for the past 3 years. So to be sitting here, it feels kind of surreal to an extent, but at the same time, we're all human beings.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, my name is Rafaz, and I started off posting videos on, mental improvement, social improvement, relationships, especially because, so many people, including myself, we've gone through certain problems in relationships where you're like, when you look back on it in hindsight, you're thinking, what was I doing? And a lot of people beat themselves down, beat themselves up for it and say, I wish I had done this. But the truth is, that's the past, and you can't be dwelling on that. If you dwell more on what happened in the past, then your future will pretty much be the same as your past, because time moves on, whether or not you're happy or sad. And that's that sort of period of time I thought, instead of me keeping my emotions within me, why don't I share it as a way of therapy or self-venting, if that's a phrase, just for me to share my message and get everything from here out to the world and see if it resonates. And I did that for 2-3 years. I still do it from time to time. And I've been playing football since I was 4 years old. And recently I started football coaching. And one thing led to another. I thought, okay, let me post a video of me coaching my football team. A newly formed football team. It was my friend's team. And he asked me whether or not I could come and coach. I said, yeah, of course I can coach. And then life is very surprising, because I never thought just 4 months later I would have over 100,000 followers on both platforms, Instagram and TikTok. But you just keep posting and you see, oh wait, my interest is in this as well. The audience interest is in this. Let me just keep going. And then one thing leads to another. I'm sitting here. So
that's amazing.
So that's a brief summary of who I am. Yeah.
Amazing. And you're only 22 years old as well, which is so exciting to hear. That's amazing. Yeah. So touching on the football. So, when did you get into football? Have you always been playing football? And what sparked your interest when it came to specifically creating content relating to football analysis and techniques and things like that? So I'd love if you can share that. Yeah.
So, since that young age of 4, myself and my dad, we would literally just train in the park, not knowing that there was such a thing called Sunday League under 6 years old, under 6 age group. So we thought it was just Chelsea first team, Man United first team, and that was it. And then when I was playing a lot with my dad, at school lunchtime or after school, I'll be playing football with my friends. And then a few parents would say, wow, you're very, very good at football. Why don't you join a team? And then we realised, oh wait, so there is a local Sunday League team that caters to 6-year-olds to play football. So I really got into the world of, non-league football from the age of 6 all the way up to professional academy setups, semi-professional environments, currently in a semi-professional environment as well. And I just feel like whenever I've watched football, whenever I've played football, I just feel like mentally I see the game slightly differently to everyone else, because I do certain movements which are very foreign to some of my teammates. And then I end up telling them, look, next time you get the ball, if you play me there, I'll play you back if you move there. And then when I'm doing that and I'm seeing it works, one thing leads to another. You're thinking, wow, even when I was 15 years old, I'm watching football games and I'm talking to my dad. I'm like, look, why doesn't he go there? So then this happens. And then, constantly focusing on, wait, let's look at the lineups. How do lineups affect the team performance? How do players affect the team performance? How does confidence, how does a manager's tactic, how does a manager's persona on the sideline affect the team? So all of that for me was very, very interesting. And the way I conclude it is that there's only one coach and like 22 players in a squad for a reason. So that one coach has so much power. And all my life I've been that player, and now I'm experimenting to see if I can become that coach in that position of authority and power. Having been in so many different environments, I know what to say, what not to say to my players, to make sure we're best set up in a way that all players can enjoy football in a competitive environment and compete. So it's not just having fun. We have fun, but in a certain way. And in the last 6-7 months, I've been experimenting with that with the team that I coach and online. And then
so it's a Sunday League team that you're coaching at the moment.
I was, and then I left last month. Now I'm shadow coaching another team, which has a very good YouTube presence, and the aim is for me to become their coach for next season. So it's a better opportunity essentially, and I had to take it because I'm on that journey where any positive opportunity comes, I just have to take it. And yeah, so then life is very strange, as I've said. You've obviously experienced it as well. You don't even imagine what you would be doing in 2 months, but you just focus on the process, and then bang, 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 things just happen.
Absolutely, and that's wonderful to hear. And I love seeing people pursue a gift that they have. And I think it was Steve Harvey that once said it. He said, "Your gift is the thing that you do the best with the least amount of effort."
Yeah.
And by the sounds of it, coaching and helping other players when you were a player was something that came naturally to you, advising them to move here and move there. And I wanted to ask, so when you were playing football, did you see the impact of the advice that you were giving on the pitch to the rest of your teammates?
Yes, I did, because, like, for example, if I'm playing, I used to play on the wing in Sunday League, and I would tell my centre midfielder, look, next time you get the ball, I'm going to make a fake run towards you, spin in behind, because that drags my fullback onto me. And then he'd be like, okay, cool. Then we would do it, and it works. Then when the opposition found out, I would tell him I'm going to do a double check movement. So I'll go away from the ball, go the other way, then come to the ball, give it to my feet. You make a run, I can play you back.
Oh, that's good.
So during the game or during training, I would say this, and then when I saw that it worked, and when my teammates saw that it worked, we were like, wow. So okay, let's just keep building that chemistry, that combination play. So for me personally, whenever I play, I'm always thinking. I don't play instinctively and say, okay, where's the ball, boom, boom, boom. I first of all watch the other team's formation, for example. Where's the space? Where can I be? Obviously, looking at the great Lionel Messi, that's what he does. You know, he walks the first 10 minutes. So to answer your question in a summary, yeah, I mean, the tactical bit just resonates with me more than the physical bit. I think Andrea Pirlo said, you know, football is played in here and the feet are just the tools.
Oh, that's good.
You know, football, the feet are just the tools, because there are so many big, physical, strong, fast players, but they don't get anywhere in non-league because they don't use their brains. And if they did use their brains more, if they understood the game of football, the game IQ aspect of it, that physical ability, I wish I had, honestly. With the way they're built and they're stuck at a certain level, for me, like, I wouldn't be at that level if I had that physical ability.
That's fascinating to hear, because I asked you that question because I'm fascinated by what triggers someone to want to pursue something. And the reason why I said, did you notice your advice having an impact? Because I can see that being the turning point for you, because you're like, hang on a second, that worked.
And then that's one game, that's 1 month, that's 1 week. Then you're talking to your friends about tactics in professional games. And then you see a manager implement a tactic that you were thinking about, and you're like, wait, like if I was Pep Guardiola, I would have done that, and he's done it. And then I start analysing certain movements, and then you start thinking, okay, so it's basically chess. And I played a lot of chess when I was younger. So one move links to another, okay, and this move links to... It's very analytical. It's not just five-a-side, you know, have fun. It can be, but I like the other aspect, because if you really dominate the mental bit, on the pitch, you can just destroy everyone as a team, as a collective. And personally, I just think... You've heard of Jay Shetty?
Yes.
So he said, your purpose and your passion... Sorry, you find your purpose by using your passion to serve other people. That's your purpose.
Oh, that's good.
So my passion is football. I could play football forever, but I think there might be a sense of necessity for me to use my knowledge and help other people. And that fine balance is the purpose. And there are certain feelings I get when I coach or when I'm helping other people that I've never got from playing the game.
Where's the sweetness for you?
The sweetness is a player coming to you after the game and saying, I've never played the way I've done today, thank you so much. Or after 2 months of working with a player, they say, you're the best coach I've ever had. You've made me discover things about myself that I've never knew was within me. So I appreciate that.
Because that's the thing about being a successful coach, isn't it? It's more than just the tactics. It's the man management as well. And from working with these players in Sunday League, how has your man management skills developed, and what do you feel has the greatest impact on a player?
I think just letting them know that they're very important, first of all. So my mission is and will always be to be the coach that I never had. So at Sunday League, when I was playing, I wished I was told a few things at that age that I've realised now. Because I think if I'd known a few things when I was younger, I would be playing at a much higher level than I am right now. But fair enough, I didn't. Maybe there's a bigger reason behind it for me to be that symbol, for me to be that person. So with my players, a few of them, I can see they're a bit shaky or a bit, they're lacking in that confidence that I know they have within. So I just bring them over, arm around the shoulder, for example. You let them know they're important in the team. You let them know, look, you're not going to get benched if you make 5 mistakes in a row. It's the intention that matters. That's number one. So, and every player responds differently to that. There are some players who are just 101 hard workers and they don't need encouragement. So you just always focus on developing points. There are some players that need constant reassurance. Well done, well done, well done. Unlucky, even though it's a very simple pass that they've misplaced, unlucky. If you shout at them, they'll make more bad passes.
Right.
And I've seen the effect of that when I've been playing with the coaches I've had before, around my teammates, with myself as well. So some of the players, no problems. They could score a 50-yard banger and they don't need me to praise them. They just want constant development points. So that's what I would do. So it's about understanding which trigger points of that player you can, like buttons, like you can press to get the best out of them, but not to overexcite them and not to sort of put them under too much pressure. And that fine balance comes from me analysing my previous coaches, what worked with me, what didn't. So that everything comes back to self-awareness. Once I've understood that, I've managed to find a fine line. And I'm still learning. I'm not here to say I'm an expert. I'm still learning and I'm still developing, and just waiting for the future, really.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And, I don't think a lot of managers get the credit that they deserve in terms of their ability to run a team like a well-oiled machine, and all these big egos and, players argue between each other and I should have been playing, you should have this. And obviously you would have probably seen this, obviously in person, some of the disputes that happen in the changing room, perhaps. It takes a really skillful manager to make the dressing room a positive place and also a high-performing place as well, because you can have a team, I guess, with great spirits, but it's just not performing.
Exactly.
So one question I had for you was, in terms of the way football has evolved, what do you think is more important, the style of play or just being a winning team? Because some people would say, for example, Mourinho, he plays rubbish football, it's not attractive. Where do you draw the fine line, between playing good football and winning?
That's a very difficult question to answer. Personally, I think it's understanding your players first and seeing, first of all, the age group you're working with. So let's assume it's a men's environment. Men's environment, Sunday league or Saturday league, semi-professional, standard level, and they want to compete. So very competitive men's league. I would say you first understand the players and see how can I get the best out of them. And if the best out of them means Mourinho style, you play Mourinho style. You play very, defensive, and then you get the best plays for the counter-attack in certain positions to release at certain times. And that's why, personally, I actually appreciate Ancelotti more than I appreciate, for example, Guardiola. Because Ancelotti, he's gone to so many different teams, different formations, different players. Look what he's doing with Bellingham now. With AC Milan, Pirlo was playing centre defensive mid. Gattuso was playing higher up. But Gattuso is more of the defensive player. So he adapts to the players. He finds the winning formula. He's won at every team he's been at. He's won something major, Champions Leagues everywhere, really. So that sort of a philosophy for me really works. Understanding your players, knowing where to play them to get the best out of them. And I think once you do that, the style will establish itself and the results should come about by itself. If they don't, then it's a matter of trusting the process, because you've maximised your ability as a coach. You've got the players in their best positions because you've really studied them and analysed them. Then I think it's down to them gelling, and then the results should, come about. So it's all intertwined, I think.
Is there such thing as ugly football?
it depends how you see football. So for me, I would say yes, there is ugly football, and I think we know what that looks like.
Parking the bus.
Parking the bus, long ball, hit the channels, like the standard non-league football terms. However, the managers have to adapt to what they're given, to the squad that they've been given. So if that means, we hit the long ball, we work on throw-ins, we have a long throw-in taker, get the balls around the corners, we take a long throw and we score headers with our big striker up top. Score 1-0, defend. If you want to call that ugly, you call that ugly, but at the end of the day, it's 1-0 and we go home with 3 points.
See, this is the thing. I mean, I'm a United fan.
Yeah.
And you are as well, right?
Yes.
When Mourinho was managing United, some people said, oh, we're playing ugly football. But the way I saw it as a fan was, as long as we win, I don't care. You know, it's more annoying losing a game having played beautiful football than, you know, playing ugly football and, you know, winning. So for me, it doesn't matter as long as the result at the end is a win.
And that's the thing. It depends on your personality as a coach. To what extent do you stick with your ideology, and to what extent do you focus on results? So the Brazilian manager, the Fluminense manager, Diniz, I don't know if you watched the final against Man City when they played a completely different style of football.
Was that? I do remember it was quite a close game, wasn't it? Was that?
It was the Club World Cup final. Man City won that 3-0, but Fluminense played a very different style of football, and it's very like there are no positions when they get the ball. And Diniz was also appointed the Brazilian manager, but he got sacked after 5 games because he focused on that Brazilian style of football. It's just like tiki-taka, tricks, flicks, get the players enjoying themselves. And he said, I don't care about the results more so than the players' self-expression, expressing themselves, having fun. Now, he got sacked. You know, he lost the final against Man City, fair enough. He had some success with his Brazilian team. But you would say, if he comes to Europe, how would he do? Will he stick to his philosophy? Because if he does, he will get exposed in Europe because the football's completely different. So I think it all goes down to you as a human being. To what extent do you stick to your principles? So if I'm a tiki-taka person, in Sunday League, I wouldn't succeed. So what do I want? Do I want to be known as the tiki-taka guy with no results? Or do I want to be known as the guy who got the results when it mattered the most? Because he adapted and he was smart.
So you mentioned the word adapt right there. So do you think adaptability is a key skill for a manager?
From my experience so far, yes, on 100%, because especially in non-league, a player is not feeling well, doesn't turn up. Your main centre midfielder. You can't still play the same way you would have if he was available. Because especially Sunday League or non-league football, the squads are very fine. Like there's a fine line between a good squad and a bad squad. 2 players make a good squad. They're missing is a bad squad. So for me, adaptability was very, very key. Just like Bruce Lee is one of my favourite idols, and he said, be like water. And, you know, you put water in a cup, it becomes like the shape of a cup. And he's absolutely right. So for me, adaptability, flexibility, adapting to the game. So if my philosophy is tiki-taka, on the ground football, but there's space in behind because their fullback is very slow, personally, I'll be like, let's do it. Let's hit the fullback's area. We have a fast winger. We bully them and we score. We go home. We win 3-4-0.
You've got to be able to take risks as well then.
Exactly. Yeah. And for me, adaptability, and I personally think if you can adapt to the game situation, your players will respect you more. Just because your players are actually playing, they can see something, they can feel something that you can't because I'm on the sideline. So if they can see something that works, who am I to stop them? And if it's not working, that's where I intervene. So so there have been countless games where, you know, I've said one thing before the game on my famous tactics board. But during the game, I've said, actually, hang on a minute, the space is actually there because at the end of the day, football is a game of 2 teams. You adapt to the team. The opposition's centre midfielder was very slow, not in position all the time. So the space was down the middle. So we'd clip it into our striker's chest. He's good at hold-up play, bring other players into the game and we play. So we skipped the midfield, then we brought the midfield in. And as long as you can adapt to whatever the game throws at you, I think you can go quite far as a coach. I personally do think that.
And also, I guess your ability to assess the game because you mentioned obviously before the game you'd say something, and then you'd notice how the game unfolds. Maybe one of their players isn't performing very well, or maybe one of them got sent off, whatever. So I guess you're constantly analysing the game on the touchline, thinking, right, this needs to change, that needs to change. And obviously when you're playing, when you're on the sideline, are you communicating with your player? Are you the shouty type to be like, hey, get here, move back this way? Or do you communicate with one player and tell him to go and tell the rest? Because how do you influence the game on the side? Obviously, half-time is usually where the managers get to say what they need to say. But when the game is unfolding, it's tricky, isn't it? Because you might be able to see something that's clearly going wrong in the game, but then you need to correct it quickly.
Exactly. That's a very good question. And that's where I analyse what would have worked for me as a player if I'm playing a certain position. So for me, if I see my centre midfielder is not tracking his man, I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to bark. I'm not the shouter, because to an extent, I just need to trust my players. If I'm telling every player what to do when they get the ball, I'm subconsciously telling them, look, I don't trust you.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
So for me, when my players get the ball, even from the goalkeeper, under pressure, I'm not screaming. I'm saying, let's see what you do. If you make a mistake, then I'll speak to you at half-time. But as far as I know, I trust you because that's the way we play. So I trust you to get the ball from the goalkeeper. If the striker's coming, I trust you to deal with it. So I'm not going to say, no, go into the channels, get rid of it. I'm not like that. So I have a certain level of trust in the players. I shout a lot defensively. So off the ball is where the focus and concentration is required from my team. On the ball, when a player gets it, I don't say, look, there, play it. No, I don't do that. Off the ball, watch your man. Yeah, he's gone behind you. Check your shoulder. Don't ball watch. Like, that's the sort of tone I would use with my players. Encouragement, obviously, guys, unlucky if it's an open goal miss. Okay, next one, you have to do it. But in possession, I just like my players to be relaxed and let them make the decisions. Off the ball movements, off the ball shape, that sort of thing I would mainly focus on.
And how important is it for the captain to be vocal?
Yeah, very important. Very important. For me, whether it's the captain, the vice captain, or even if it's not the captain, just someone at the back or in the middle, someone to be that guide in the centre of the pitch. Say, guys, we're slacking. What are we doing? We're loose to the second balls. Come on, wake up. I like that sort of a character. Because personally, I don't like that motivation aspect. I feel like footballers should always be intrinsically motivated. So I'm not going to be the guy that says, oh, I'm going to put a quote up like hard work beats talent and stuff like that. I'm not like that. I just think if you're tuned in tactically, you should be fine on the pitch. And to have someone on the pitch to talk like that, for me, that's a very good balance.
Yeah, because, as a football fan, over the years, I've seen a lot of great captains playing for great teams. Obviously, Roy Keane, I was pretty young when he was playing, but from observing the games that he played at, this guy was aggressive.
No nonsense.
No nonsense. He was shouting. For him, the mindset was, I'm not here to make friends. Even before the games, in the tunnel, he wasn't, shaking, fist bumping. He was just like, this is war. Yeah, obviously, there's a very famous scene, him against Vieira in the tunnel.
Yeah.
I think Vieira said something to Gary Neville, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna kill you, basically, as soon as we get on that pitch. And he played his heart.
Yeah.
He played his heart out, and that passion, I feel like we don't see much in the game anymore. It's a character like him is a dying breed.
Yeah,
The question I do have is how have you seen football evolve?
Yeah.
What's different about modern football compared to, let's say, when Gattuso was playing, Roy Keane, Totti, Xavi, Iniesta? They're more recent, but how have you seen the game evolve?
I would say it's more down to that tactical, mental aspect, more than just a nitty-gritty hard work. I think that hard work that we've seen from Roy Keane, or that warrior mentality, that's trickled down to non-league. So I'm seeing a lot of captains in non-league, whether it's semi-professional, amateur league, or just very low-level professional. It's more of that, guys, come on, put some heart out there. Where's your desire? Come on. But in the professional game, it's more just, I'm not saying relaxed leadership, but it's just like, if everyone knows their tactical responsibilities in possession, out of possession, I think that encouragement or that warrior mentality doesn't need to be there. Or, for example, it should be there, but it isn't, maybe because of VAR, maybe because the fouling aspect has the game. They say the game's gone soft. But yeah, for me, every team should have that sort of a player, even if that means they're on the ball ability is neglected, so be it. I'd rather, compensate. If they're not the best on the ball, if they have that leadership, that character, that you are on the sideline, but they're on the pitch, I'd rather give up the ball playing ability for that sort of a leader, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because a few players come to mind. Obviously, Roy Keane, Ramos. I think Real Madrid. He was one of those guys.
Puyol, Barcelona.
Yeah, Puyol.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a warrior as well.
Vincent Kompany as well.
Oh yeah.
Now, I mean, Man United. Who's the captain? Is it Bruno
Fernandes? Yeah.
So you can see Bruno's character is slightly different to how Roy Keane was, for example. Man City's is De Bruyne, Ruben Diaz.
Yeah, one of those two. Yeah.
So it's not that, get stuck in, no nonsense sort of character. And well, that's gone out of the game because football's really turned into chess. When it's more of a chess game, it's more thinking, more tactical, more intellectual than the other aspect where it's more of the, hard work, desire, mentality, nitty gritty sort of aspect.
Would you say football's also become more fast paced?
Yes, it has, yeah. Especially in Europe, especially in the Premier League or in Spain, in Italy, in Germany. It's because the way that the modern coaches see it, get stronger, faster, bigger, fitter, so then my tactics work even more. I want to move the ball quicker. I want you to move to that space quicker once you've passed it. I want you to move quicker, even quicker, even quicker. And, that just means that the speed is always on the upwards trajectory.
That's a good way of looking at it, actually. Every second matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously, if it's like an 89th, if you're down 1-0 and it's the 89th minute and you need a goal, you need a player who's fast on the counter.
Exactly. And even 50th minute of the game, just nowadays everything has to be speed. And to an extent, I actually disagree with it. Because at times, if you look at the players like Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, slowing the game down, Busquets, slowing the game down, walking pace, 2 touches, relax, and then bang, they play a pass, which opens the game up.
They made it look so easy.
Exactly,
players.
Yeah. But especially non-league, I speak for non-league because that's where my whole experience has been. It's everything, no one appreciates that, how do I say it, that European or that Spanish style of play. They don't, and that's where my biggest problem is with non-league. They don't appreciate that bit where you get the ball from the goalkeeper, perform a feint, walk with the ball, then pass it with a bit of elegance. They want Roy Keane. They don't want that. They'd rather you always win your aerial battles, get stuck in, make a few loose passes, go home, win the game 1-0. Oh, well done, mate. You got stuck in. Now, everyone sees football differently, so I understand the disagreements behind what I'm saying, but personally, you've got to appreciate both aspects, just like you do with anything in life. And I appreciate the hard work aspect. The coaches appreciate the hard work aspect in non-league, but also please appreciate when a player gets the ball, plays quick 1-2s, then walks with the ball, slows the game down, plays a switch, opens the game up. They don't appreciate it as much as they should, which is why so many players, just to get game time, they revert to that automatic, I'm not going to say British style, but that automatic non-league, 2-touch, 3-touch, get the ball, switch it, run, make an action, get stuck in. Everyone reverts to that just to get game time.
Right.
And I think they lose the essence of that true footballer that they have within, that they may express with their friends playing 7-a-side football, 5-a-side football. Right. And for me personally, I don't want that to become extinct.
Do you think it's also because a lot of players are nervous that if they play that way, they're going to get criticised by the manager?
Yeah, you're speaking to one of them. So I don't get nervous because I genuinely stick to the way I play. And if a coach doesn't like it and I'm not getting game time, I try to adapt. And if it's still not working, I actually move teams. And this might be very unpopular with what I'm saying. Yeah, I've moved around a lot of teams because I think, first of all, life's too short. My playing career is too short for me to adapt to a way which is unnatural to me. So for me personally, excessive long balls, panicking from the sidelines, from the non-league coaches, get it out of there. When I actually have time, relax. I know what I'm doing. The coaches don't trust me as a centre midfielder. So I'm thinking, I'm going to kick it long, but anyone can kick it long.
Yes.
I've been training since the age of 4 in different environments, different academies. I've been studying different players. Why can't I express that? Because the coach panics. He doesn't want to see certain things that professionals do because he doesn't see us as professionals. But for the standard that we're playing, perhaps we are professionals to an extent. Some of us in our non-league teams, we can be that player, that player that goes, wow, whoa, what did he just do there?
Yeah.
But they restrict that to the point where it's very basic, hit the areas, when in doubt, clear it. I understand the results are important, but I think you can't let that hinder the players' extent to which they really express themselves, because then ultimately everyone just stops enjoying football.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah, and there have been times this season I've been playing semi-professional football where I actually haven't enjoyed football, because as a centre midfielder, the last thing you want your coach to say is, guys, keep it out of the middle, we're hitting the areas today. And you're thinking, so what am I doing? I'm just running off scraps. And I don't see football being played that way. Mm-hmm. So that goes back to your previous point about ugly football. I'm not an advocate of ugly football. From the coaching aspect, if it gets you results, then fair enough. I have to be if I'm involved in that, I'm involved in that. But for me, non-league, it has a lot of contradictions. The coach says, guys, I want you to have fun. And then during the game, after 2 minutes of a bad pass, we're going long. And then that's where it... Yeah.
So you needed really a manager that trusts your ability to dictate the play, that leaves room for error here and there. Because otherwise, that manager is not taking advantage of that player's best skills. And
if you're a player that likes to dictate play, they're not trusting you with that. If you're a player that likes to break lines, they're not trusting you with that. If you're a player that likes to, as a fullback, overlap, they'll be like, no, don't go too high because you're leaving space in behind. When actually, they need to think, if he overlaps, there's an overload up front, we can cover accordingly, let him express himself, because that's the way he plays. So they say certain things that goes against the player's natural tendencies. And I strongly do feel if everyone plays to their natural tendency, I think, every team can really gel in a way where it's like free-flowing football, enjoyable football. And the coach's role is to focus on out of possession, compactness, defensive rigidity, that sort of aspect. Mm-hmm. That's what I personally think. And, some people could say, oh, who are you to speak? Fair enough. Who am I at the moment? But from my experience, that's really how I feel.
Mm-hmm. No, your analysis of the game is incredibly refreshing. I've seen a lot of your videos, especially recently. You had that viral video analysing Bayern Leverkusen and Xabi Alonso. Tell us about that video.
Yeah, I filmed it last night. Midnight, and now it's hit nearly 1 million views in just like 18, 19 hours.
Wow.
So
for those listening, Bayern Leverkusen just yesterday beat Bayern Munich 3-0, right?
3-0.
What's your analysis of the game? And how good is Xabi Alonso as a manager?
Yeah, I mean, bearing in mind Bayern Leverkusen only had 35% ball possession.
Wow.
They only had 35% ball possession, and then there was a clip that I posted of incredible tiki-taka. Because the way Xabi Alonso has played, it's coaching, once again, he's adapted. Last night was an example that Xabi Alonso can adapt incredibly. He shifted the formation. He brought in a player instead of Frimpong, whose name I forgot. And Frimpong is their very aggressive right wing-back outlet on the wing. He brought in a more conservative player. And defensively, they were a back five. So they went man for man. And that's not something that they've done before. Usually they press from the front, they win it from the front and they score. They haven't conceded a counter-attack goal this season yet. They haven't. And for me, that's incredible. But last night, they didn't sit back, but they played in a different way where they allowed Bayern Munich to have the ball. They capitalised on their mistakes, and 3-0 at home. 35% ball possession. They played their left wing-back very central, Grimaldo, and that's very unorthodox. Usually in a back four, you have the left back that inverts like Pep Guardiola style, but he's inverting the left wing back, which means there's no one on the left, but he's happy for that because that central overload is crazy. Mm-hmm. And what he's doing is a perfect blend of Rafa Benitez, who he's been coached by, Mourinho, Guardiola.
Was he coached by Ancelotti as well or not?
Yes, Ancelotti as well. Wow.
So he's had the best managers in world football to learn from.
And you can see what happens when you're coached by the best. He's it's a blend of everything. Ancelotti's player adaptation, Xabi Alonso does that. He plays his best player, number 10, Florian Wirtz, in that position that allows him to express himself. He plays Xhaka in that deeper role because Xhaka likes to dictate play. Mourinho's defensive rigidity, we saw that last night. Pep Guardiola's tiki-taka, we've seen that. Rafa Benitez's ability to adapt systems from one formation to another, we've seen that as well. Because they play in one way from goal kicks and they shift to another way in standard play. And for me, the sky's the limit for Xabi Alonso, honestly, it is.
Where do you think his career is heading in the next 12 months? Do you see him becoming Liverpool manager?
Everyone's talking about it. I would love to see that, honestly, if he becomes Liverpool coach. With the way Liverpool have been coached with Jurgen Klopp, that aggressive, high pressing style, it suits Xabi Alonso perfectly. With the players that Liverpool have, he could bring in a few Leverkusen players to really fit that style of play. But once again, he might adapt to Liverpool. He might play a completely different style. We don't know. Maybe Chelsea as well. He could do a job at Chelsea. However, I just think because of his Liverpool history, I can see him, moving towards Liverpool.
What about Real Madrid after Ancelotti?
Is Ancelotti leaving?
I think he's got 2 years left, but you know how Real Madrid are. I mean, if Ancelotti decides that at the end of the season he doesn't want to continue anymore, because it seems like a lot of managers are doing that now. They just announce that they won't be coaching after Xavi, Barcelona.
A lot of people have been commenting that I become the next Barcelona coach.
Man, I'd love to see it, brother. I'd love to see that.
I think I'll be out of my depth to an extent.
Where do you think it went wrong for Xavi? Do you think he was ousted, or do you think his ability to manage that team, I mean, broke down obviously because of a series of, losing performances?
I think a lot of injuries, to the key players like Pedri, Gavi, Busquets leaving, Dani Alves leaving, because they had that 8 months of enjoyment because Dani Alves had just come back, Xavi is just back as the new coach, and it just felt like everyone was excited. Aubameyang was there. It just felt there was that excitement period. Then when Busquets went, Dani Alves left, players got injured. The La Liga restrictions on there's so many financial fair play rules and then the financial situation of Barcelona hasn't helped Xavi. So I think all of that, I think it's potentially right person but wrong time. So I think if Xavi had gone to a team like Real Betis or a team like Real Sociedad and built his European experience there instead of coming straight from Al Sadd from Qatar, I think then he would have been put in a prime position to coach Barcelona, for example, in their new stadium being built in 2-3 years' time, instead of having to go from the Camp Nou to this very low attendance stadium. That transition, to an extent as well, I think Xavi's playing philosophy hasn't been concrete. So he started off with a very dynamic play style, which was very similar to the old Barcelona, and then that sort of faded away. They became more conservative. Yeah, and for me, the overall environment, I don't think it was best optimised for Xavi. And I think, honestly, it's right person, wrong time.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, Barcelona are going for a very turbulent period.
It has been for the past 4 or 5 years because of the previous president.
Yeah.
So it's...
a lot of restrictions and a lot of senior players leaving. I mean, do you think that has a huge impact on a team when 4 or 5 senior players leave?
It does, because when they are there and you're a new upcoming young player, you sort of feel safe. I think you would feel that safety net to say, look, if I'm Pedri and I'm 18 years old and I'm looking and I'm seeing Busquets and I'm seeing Dani Alves in that corner, Piqué behind me, Lewandowski in front of me, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can play really freely because I trust him. Now with that transition, yes, Gundogan is still senior. Frankie de Jong to an extent is senior. But at the back, they have some very, very, of course, very, very good players. I just think the environment hasn't been there for Xavi to just focus on the players and optimising them. So many things behind the scenes. Lewandowski not performing for the past year, for example. The players up front not firing. Ansu Fati constantly getting injured, then getting loaned out. It's just Pedri, Gavi, like these key players getting injured. It just hasn't allowed Xavi to just focus on the players and do his job as a coach.
Yeah, and in Spain as well, it's very difficult to manage without receiving tons of criticism from the media. I mean, over there, it's next level. I mean,
yeah, Xavi said it himself, and I felt so bad that Xavi said, I love the club, but he basically said, I hate the club as a coach. He said, it's torture being a coach here, because whatever I do, there's always a problem. And for Xavi to say that, I mean, all you have to do is watch his videos as a footballer, and for him to come out and say that about his beloved club, it says a lot about the way Spain is. Even in Real Madrid, they're booing Ronaldo back in the day. What they did, it's Cristiano Ronaldo.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but I guess over there it's a ruthless culture of winning, especially at Real Madrid.
Yeah,
I mean, if you don't, if there's a couple of games where you're not performing, the fans turn against you. You know, you'll start getting. I remember that team, Bale, Benzema, Ronaldo being booed after a bad game, and you're like, wow, these guys, you know, 3 back-to-back Champions Leagues. I want to ask you about this actually. With Real Madrid specifically, them doing 3 Champions Leagues back-to-back, how much credit do you give Zidane? Do you think it's more so right time, right place for Zidane? Because a lot of people criticize him and say, well, he hasn't really proven himself as a manager. He was lucky to inherit Ronaldo, Benzema and Bale.
Oh, he didn't do much.
But then 3 Champions Leagues. That's very difficult. Back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, once again, it goes back to that adaptability bit. You know, I think he adapted to the players he had. I think Zidane, he saw the quality in that team and said, I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to introduce things that the players are good. They were all in their prime. Ramos, Marcelo, Casemiro, Cruz, Modric, Ronaldo, Benzema, Bale, Isco. Back in the day, I mean, like literally 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, Carvajal was still playing. Ramos, Pepe wasn't there. Who was next to Ramos?
Varane, right?
Varane, yes, Varane. And I'm thinking, even if I'm there as a coach, I'm looking in that changing room, I'm thinking, all I have to do is give them the platform and let them play. And fair enough, he got 3 in a row. It's unheard of.
Do you think it's also because of the romance of the story? Zidane was once a great Real Madrid player and, you know, arguably one of the greatest ever players.
I think the players also played for him a lot as well because they saw Zinedine Zidane's our coach. We can't not perform like Zinedine Zidane did. Everyone's got to play a certain way, you know. And Real Madrid, they didn't have like a set identity with Zidane. Just like Ancelotti, they just found a way to win games, especially in Champions League. Now, people will say there were a few controversial decisions from the refereeing. For example, there was a Bayern Munich game, so they're saying if VAR existed, well, it didn't exist. They ended up winning it, so we can't say if and but.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think whatever Zinedine Zidane did, we can't comment and say, oh, he got lucky, because maybe another coach would have fumbled it. Maybe another coach would have, you know, lost the dressing room with too many egos, too many characters. It's happened before. But he's gone in there, established him. And as you said, it's him, it's Zinedine Zidane. If he says something, there's a reason why he's saying it. So I think the status was already there. But for example, like Ten Hag and Ronaldo, that sort of situation, I think some players might think, oh, who's Ten Hag? And that's where the slight friction came about. I think with Zidane, there can't be any friction because it's Zinedine Zidane, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's the credibility. I mean, you can't argue with Zidane and say, no, we should do it this way. I mean, the guy's achieved remarkable success as a player. And then walking into that dressing room, he has that serious look about him as well. He's a no-nonsense guy. And that team was incredible to watch. The other question I have is, what team do you think in recent history played the most beautiful football?
By recent, how recent?
In the last 20 years.
Yeah, straight away Barcelona, 2009, 2011, 2012. For me, yes, they only won. Now people say, oh, they only won 2 Champions Leagues. Zidane won 3 in a row. And then that's where it comes back to result or style of football. But I'll find the balance because they won 2 Champions Leagues. I'll give up 1 Champions League to see what they did, because for me, that style of football, it's the foundations of any modern football that you see now. Because it's all triangles, diamonds, short passing. Xabi Alonso, very short passing. His players play very short passes to release a player. Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, short passes to release Messi in acres of space. Forward runners, little 1-2s. For me, that sort of style, it just seems very natural. And I don't think you can say, if you play in that environment, you can't say, oh, I didn't enjoy that.
I mean, they were such a crazy team. I mean, especially when you look at Xavi, Iniesta, they're small guys. Yeah. They're not ripped. They're not 6'2", you know, pure muscle. These are, you look at them and you're like, how?
Busquets.
Yeah, Busquets as well. He's probably the most nonchalant player out there. I mean, he blends in. Yeah. But sometimes you forget he's there.
Yeah.
But when he gets the ball, boom, boom, you always look at him analysing. And it's the same thing with Xavi as well and Iniesta. They're always doing this. You know, I asked this to Anas when I had him on the podcast. You know, how important is assessing the game as a player? Because you mentioned earlier about Messi walking for 10 minutes, just looking around. Do you think that's something a lot of players aren't doing as much, and it would change the game for them if they were just simply to look around the pitch and analyse it?
Yeah, exactly. That's why in non-league, when it's all, there's that notion, fast, aggressive, powerful, go, 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 go. I haven't seen one coach to say, guys, pause for a minute. First 5 minutes, identify the spaces in the opposition. What formation are they playing? Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, yes, they had pre-game analysis of the opposition, but during the game, Messi might find something that the management team couldn't discover in their 4 hours of pre-match. You know? So, and that's the thing. The more you can slow the game down mentally, then when the time comes to play fast, you'll play fast. If you're constantly go, 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 you might miss certain things. And then in hindsight, you might think, oh, wait, in the first 2 minutes, when that right back slipped or missed that header, that was the opportunity to constantly put pressure on that right back. So those sort of things, those fine margins are what can determine the outcome of a game.
What was really impressive about that Barcelona team, when I reflect, is how they would always find a space even when surrounded by 5 or 6 players. It's almost like they're always playing in the middle of the pitch. They're rarely on the wings, you know. And you think to yourself, why are they taking the most difficult path? Especially when Messi had the ball, he would just walk straight through, right in the middle of the pitch.
Or he would look this way and play that way.
Yeah.
Busquets the same thing. He would look that way and play this way to Messi, and sometimes there have been instances where Messi's played a pass to a player, to his own teammate, and he's even surprised he's got the ball.
Yeah.
Busquets has done it as well. Not to Messi, because Messi and Busquets had that connection, but Busquets to Pedro. I've remembered a few times. Busquets would play to Pedro, and you could see from Pedro's touch, he's suddenly like, wait, why don't I have the ball?
Yeah.
So that sort of essence of playing football, for me, it's very natural. It's very fun. It's very fluid. And when you say, guys, let's play football, I think naturally we just think football means that.
That, yeah.
And there's different styles of possession. Keep the ball from side to side, wait for the gaps to open, then play. But this style of football, very short, vertical, not sideways, vertical. More emphasis on individual creativity. When you have Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, Dani Alves, you know, Alexis Sanchez who came later, Fabregas who came in later. I mean, yeah, that team, it just speaks for itself on paper. So
insane. And with that being said, do you think the tiki-taka style of football is dead? Or do you think it will take a really special manager to incorporate that again? Because Guardiola isn't really playing tiki-taka with Man City, is
He's not now, no. But I think Xavi Alonso is bringing it back.
You think so?
I actually think, because I've watched a few games and I'm seeing the same movements that Barcelona had done with Guardiola. Like Florian Wirtz is like the Messi role, the free roamer. He goes anywhere on the pitch. He creates overloads where the opposition least expect. Opposition are pressing the defence high. He's popping up at left back to get the ball because there's the space. Grimaldo's inside. It's all free flowing football, but with emphasis on short, vertical, crisp passing, with emphasis on looking this way, playing that way, then getting the 1-2 back, then playing this way. That clip I posted on TikTok with them playing is on 1.5 million views, because it's like, and when you watch that clip, you can see what they're trying to do and what they have been doing for the whole season. And that's why I think Xabi Alonso, with Bayer Leverkusen, is bringing it back. I don't know if he'll still bring it, continue with this ideology in 2 years with another team. But for now, in general, yes, it has faded away, but I think Xabi Alonso may be pushing it back.
Yeah, because it does feel like football has changed massively.
It has.
Just in the last 5 years.
It's become very robotic. And that's why when some people say Pep has ruined football, I can understand their perspective. Because nowadays, where's that creative number 10 that just dribbles the ball, gets the ball and just head down, dribble. It's everything's pass and move. Where are those wingers that used to get the ball, like Ronaldinho, Neymar back in 2015? Who else? Ronaldo in Man United. Where are those sort of wingers now? I can't name a lot of them. Rafael Leao at AC Milan, he's inconsistent. So I don't think that encouragement is there for a winger, for a coach to say to a winger, guys, when he has the ball, let him play. I don't think it's there now. It's
Yeah.
so tactical, so chess-like that essence has disappeared. And yeah,
I don't know if you saw that interview that Zidane had with Messi.
I watched it. Yeah,
And they were both talking, obviously, being number 10s. Zidane obviously retired. They were both talking about their role on the pitch over the years in their playing careers. And I think Zidane asked Messi, do you think the number 10 is dying out? You know, as a position in terms of the authority of a number 10 on the pitch. And I think Messi said something like, yeah, he believes that football is just becoming fused now. It's become just the team as opposed to, as you mentioned, the individual player given the freedom to express himself on the pitch. So obviously Messi, when he was playing, Messi's an exception if we're talking about pure talent, but just the number 10 role on the pitch. I think was Gerrard. He was a number. Was he a number 10?
he was a number 6/8, and
6.
then with Benitez, he played closer to Fernando Torres up front.
Yeah, because there's a few number 10s that I can think of, but
David Silva is one of the main number 10s that I think of. Mesut Ozil. But nowadays, who can we name? That's like even Kevin De Bruyne is not like that number 10, because he's very fluid with the ball. But the way David Silva, Ozil moved with the ball, James Rodriguez, it's more just the way you move with the ball, the way you seem when you get the ball. I think Foden for me is one of those number 10s that I still believe is one of those dying number 10s in a way, that natural old school number 10, just with the way he moves with the ball. Left to right, able to receive from all areas of the pitch comfortably, all angles. And I just think football, once again, when I think natural football, I just think of that sort of a player.
Yeah. Now, I can definitely see how the romance is disappearing from the game. It's becoming really artificial. It's just becoming about, let's get the 3 points. And this is why I asked you about the ugly football earlier, because now when you watch teams, I mean, the Arsenal team from back in 04, 05 was insane.
Yeah.
The United team, 07, 08, was a crazy team to watch. I mean, Ronaldo just messing about on the wing, pissing players off. Obviously, there was Rooney as well with his long-range passing, Scholes. I mean, football back then, I was saying this to a friend the other day. I could look back at the Premier League 08, 07 and name you pretty much all of the players in every top 16. You know, Chelsea, Liverpool. You know, but now, if you ask someone now, name me the starting 11 of Chelsea, a lot of people are going to be like, I know there's...
It's always
Modric,
changing.
I know it's always changing. There's not a set identity. But back then, for example, Chelsea, SCN, John Terry.
That's it, yeah.
I mean, Drogba. Like, you could name the whole squad. Ballack as well.
Yeah.
You know,
Kalou, Malouda. Yeah, those days. Yeah.
You know,
Ashley
you
Cole.
could. Yeah, Ashley Cole, exactly. You know, and this is why some would argue that the standard of the Premier League has dropped in the last sort of 10, 15 years. You know, would you say it was harder back when Sir Alex Ferguson and Wenger were managing? Let's just say 06, 07, 08. Was it harder to get results against the top 6, do you think, than it is now? Because the standard of play, it seemed back then, was a lot higher than now. Or maybe it's just that the way the game's been played now is different.
Yeah, I just think because nowadays with this like incredible amounts of information online, the data, pre-game, you analyse, okay, this person gets the ball with this many touches in this area, so we need to stop him. As you said, that really restricts the game to ebb and flow. And in the time periods that you're mentioning, it was just free. It was just end to end. You know, Man United beat Arsenal. Was it Arsenal 8-2?
Yeah.
Yeah. When would you ever see that now? Even if it's Arsenal beating Man United or Arsenal beating Chelsea, it's not going to be 8-0 because the game hasn't been designed for that free flowing. Because back then, maybe the lack of tactics or the lack of, you know, specific detail allowed the players just to play free flowing football. Those big games were big games, like proper clashes. A few times I've watched Man City Arsenal. It's boring. It's boring from a fan point of view. It's interesting from a tactical point of view. Yeah. You see certain movements, you're like, okay, so he's gone there for this reason, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
Because football back then had this, like I said, this romance. Like I remember United, Arsenal in the Champions League. Obviously, Ronaldo scored that rocket from 40 yards. And then I remember that counter-attack as well, where it was Jason Park to Rooney. I think Rooney to Ronaldo. I mean, the game just had this electrifying atmosphere to it, which now perhaps doesn't exist as much. I mean, a lot of big names have left the Premier League, managers and players. Sir Alex Ferguson. I mean, in terms of management, as someone who coaches right now and obviously watches the game very closely, you mentioned Ancelotti earlier, but who would you say is the greatest ever manager?
I would say Johan Cruyff.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I've posted a lot of videos on Johan Cruyff and I've read his book as well. And I think, for me, what categorizes the greatest manager is the one whose principles we still implement 40 years after they've stopped coaching. Not 40, sorry. 25, 30 years after he stopped coaching. For me, that's what you categorize as legacy. Pep Guardiola's style of football has come from Johan Cruyff. Anything on the floor with triangles and tiki-taka is Johan Cruyff. Anything triangle related, diamond related is from Johan Cruyff. And for me, that's essentially what I categorize as the greatest manager of all time. The one whose principles I look up to and I study. And yeah, it would be Johan Cruyff. Yeah,
Johan Cruyff.
Yeah.
That's a very good way of looking at it as well in terms of legacy.
Because competition, achievements, they'll come and go for a manager. So in 50 years, we'll still remember Guardiola as one of the greatest ever managers of all time. We'll still remember Alex Ferguson, as we still do for now. However, the roots of that natural essence of football has come from Johan Cruyff. And for me, I value that more than the achievements that one can gain in one season because they've had incredible players, for example. That's what I value the most.
Yeah. And in terms of the best players in the world, which player do you think was robbed of winning a Ballon d'Or? That didn't receive the credit during their playing career that they should have received?
I would say Wesley Sneijder 2010. So I know Messi won it in 2010, but Wesley Sneijder got to the World Cup final, runners up there, and won the treble with Inter Milan with Mourinho. And I'm a huge Messi fan, a huge Barcelona fan, but from an unemotional point of view, Wesley Sneijder should have got it in 2010. Lewandowski in 2020.
They didn't give it to anyone that year, did they? Which seemed unfair.
Which is quite.
Because football was still being played.
It's quite interesting. It was only paused for 2 months. It was only paused for 2.5 months.
And they didn't do anything.
No, and then he got some secondary award like the best FIFA, but it's not Ballon d'Or. It's not that golden ball.
Yeah.
And potentially people are saying Haaland for just the year gone by, 2023. So Messi.
How would you assess him, Haaland? He's a very interesting player, isn't he?
I think Pep Guardiola's team doesn't suit him as much as other teams would. I know he's got 55. He got 55 goals last season, and he's scoring again this season. I just feel like with his ability and the way Pep focuses on a very possession-oriented, patient style of football, I don't think you get the best out of Haaland. I think Haaland in a team like Real Madrid, in a team like Bayer Leverkusen, in a team like Inter Milan, Arsenal maybe, but a team that's very progressive in playing. Like they get the ball, they want to score straight away. That's what Bayer Leverkusen want to do. I think in that team he would excel, running in behind. Because look at his ability, his height, his physical prowess, his technique as well. And in so many games,
he's awkward, isn't he? He's a very awkward player. Even the way he runs,
it's
defenders
awkward.
don't know how to respond to him.
And that's why, as a coach, I would use that positive aspect. If they don't know how to defend, give him the ball into space, let him run. But there have been stats where he's only touched the ball 7 times in the opposition penalty box or stuff like that. And for me, he's too good of a player to be wasted in that sense. In the Champions League final or in the FA Cup finals, he didn't really score. He hasn't scored in the crucial knockout games because Guardiola really focuses on control of the game, and that hinders Haaland's ability. So I think a more direct team, a more Borussia Dortmund is one of the best teams for Haaland just because of the way they play. It's get the ball, bang, 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 let's try and score. So,
do you see him moving to Real Madrid?
I think Mbappe would go, and if Real Madrid have the budget for Haaland as well, which
could they both play together very well? Because they're both players with big egos, and they both want to be the main men of the team. Do you think they could excel together?
But that's where you have Vinicius as well, and then too many good players is a problem, just like the Real Madrid Galacticos, right?
That is true.
So,
and then obviously, you've got Bellingham there as well.
So, and then Rodrigo, incredible player as well. So how would you fit that in? Where's Haaland, Mbappe? Vinicius can't play on the right, that as well. Mbappe can't play on the right, and Haaland is not a winger. So how do you blend that in with Bellingham?
That's true. And how good is Bellingham?
Yeah, I on the way here on the train, I posted my Real Madrid video analysing Real Madrid, and I said on the video I can speak about Bellingham for 10 minutes because he's not a number 9 and then he's not a number 10. He's like a number 9.5. He's recreating a role where he's the top scorer of La Liga, but then he's so involved in build-up and combination play. He's like an all-rounded player, and it's incredible to see. He's 20 years old. To have that sort of, and more than the ability, it's the game IQ. Once again, it goes back to the mental aspect. How does he know where to be in the penalty box to consistently score? Like, I'm not calling them scrappy goals, but if you see most of his goals, they're like rebounds. But a goal is a goal, and he's got like 20 of them this season, with 10, 11 assists, and that will only keep going. That's on the upwards trajectory as well. And with the way he combines with Vinicius, Modric, Kroos, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde, like, he can do everything. And I think the sky is honestly the limit for him, because that sort of a player is so rare in the modern game. He can play as a number 9 at times in free-flowing play with Real Madrid, but he can play as a 10. And on the pitch, he's classified as a 10, but he's top scorer of La Liga. So how do you categorise that?
That's insane. I think the one thing that really surprised me is the amount of goals he scored. Because I knew he'd excel at Real Madrid, but I think he exceeded what I thought he would do in such a short period of time. In
the first season, 20-year-old English boy. Dortmund, he was captain. I can see him being captain of Real Madrid. And for a 20-year-old to have that sort of leadership is unheard of. He's got everything for me, personally. Defensively as well, he's strong, powerful. He sits in next to the defensive midfield for Real Madrid. And then on the ball, he can drive from deep. He can dictate play. If the game calls for it, he'll just calm the play down. He'll make runs in behind unselfishly, knowing he's not going to get the ball, to open up space for someone else. Yeah, an unbelievable player, honestly.
Do you think that's created a problem for Real Madrid? Because they're like, he's scoring a lot of goals for us. I mean, in terms of striker, who's their main striker right now, Real Madrid?
That's the thing. It's Bellingham and then Vinicius, Rodrigo in front.
Yeah, because they used to have such a prominent striker at the front. I mean, Raul before Benzema as well. They always used to have one player. To bang the ball to and hope that they score. Obviously, Ronaldo came in and changed that a little bit, because he came in as a winger initially.
Yeah.
And then he kind of morphed into a striker and became their all-time goal scorer, which is insane. Do you think Bellingham would break Ronaldo's record of goals if he continues in this trajectory?
That's a big
Or do you think Ronaldo's too good? Do you think it's disrespectful to even put them in the conversation at this stage?
At this stage, to an extent, yes. I think Messi and Ronaldo should be, diverted from, just because of what they've achieved. The reason why Messi and Ronaldo is because of consistency. Every year they hit 35 plus goals. 30, not even 30, 35. So, and their bad season was at 27 goals, for example. That's Messi's worst season. 27 goals, like 25 assists. And Bellingham, it's very early to call that, to put him in that sentence for now. But with the way, once again, Ancelotti has adapted to not having a number 9, thinking, let me put Vinicius Rodrigo ahead of Bellingham, and I can see something in Bellingham that other managers couldn't. I don't see him as a centre midfielder. We have Modric, Kroos to do that work. He's strong, he's powerful, he can head the ball. Let's put him in just ahead, but just behind Vinicius Rodrigo. And yeah, so Real Madrid's potent threat is that front 3, but it's not just a typical front 3. So they don't have that number 9. They have like a number 9.5 who does a bit of both.
That's an interesting analysis of Bellingham, to be fair. Because, yeah, he's definitely taken the league by storm. And to see, your analysis of him like that, it's just interesting. In terms of the GOAT debate, Ronaldo or Messi?
I've always been Messi.
Yeah? And you're a United fan as well, like me.
Yes, because at the same time, I've watched a lot of Barcelona with when I was younger, my dad was a big Barcelona fan. So I've just grown up in that environment where there's a lot of Barcelona. I used to be a big Ronaldo fan. And then when he left for Real Madrid, I was very annoyed. I was very young back then. And then I started watching Messi for a bit and I was like, wow, what a player. And I'm left-footed as well. And I thought, wow, this is the sort of player I want to play like, or this is the sort of player every player should try and be like. So for me, it's Messi just because we can all see what he's done ability-wise, but from an emotional point of view, there have been times in my life where when I've watched Messi, it's given me that peace of mind where it's my escapism from my real life. And other people have Netflix or they have alcohol, they have drugs, they have other stuff for escapism. For me, it was watching Lionel Messi.
You're watching magic unfold.
Exactly. And when I'm seeing that, it's like every worry that I had just disappeared. And for that 90 minutes, I could just enjoy watching Messi, and then that would give me that sense of peace. Honestly, it's a very different way of looking at Lionel Messi, having also won the World Cup. That sort of
the romance of that
sort of an achievement is unheard of.
It was written, wasn't it? I mean, what a way to end your
career.
The way
they lost the first game of the group stage.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, Argentina's 36 game unbeaten run, ending there and then restarting straight after that game. It's unbelievable.
I think for me, it solidified Messi being the greatest ever. Watching him in the World Cup drag his team to the final.
35 years old.
Yeah.
Do you remember against Croatia, that 21-year-old Guardiola, who's now at Man City?
Yeah.
The way he dropped the shoulder on someone who's 14 years younger.
That's when he was towards the corner. He went down the corner and then he just moved around like that. Wow.
Passed it to Alvarez and Alvarez scored.
How did he create it from nothing?
It's that deceleration. So he does something that other players still can't do as much as he did. Because if they do, it changes the game. He would walk with the ball, and then the way his body was created by, I don't know who or how.
Yeah.
It's like he would walk and then he hits up like 100 miles an hour instantaneously. And for a centre back, you're just watching him walk, and then when he suddenly goes, he's got that 2 yards ahead of you, and that 14-year age gap means nothing in that moment. And yeah, some of the things you see with the way he just walks, drops the shoulder.
It's disgusting. And I remember that one goal. I think it was against Athletic Bilbao or Atletico Madrid.
2015, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he was at the halfway point. 3 or 4 players, bang, 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 cut in, and then it was bottom right.
You know that goal defied physics? A scientist analysed that goal, and what he did was abnormal for a human being. Because to go from that stance, so as soon as he got the ball from Dani Alves, he went to the left, then he cut back, but he turned all the way round. So his face was facing his own goal, and then he basically did a 180 turn, and then he went full speed, changed direction at full speed, and his shot placement, if he got it like 1 degree to the right or left, he would have missed. And to get it pinpoint, because Suarez was jumping over the ball and there was another defender just there, it's...
I mean, the guy is an alien. The guy, and I even remember that free kick against Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
That has to be one of the best free kicks of all time. Just the way it was just slotted right into the top left. Perfectly.
Personally, I actually think he scored a better free kick than that. It was Argentina versus USA, Copa America 2016. So it was the semi-final Copa America, and from a left-footed point of view, he was in a position for a right-footer to take it. But in that position, he curled it to the opposite corner in the place that he had to put it in. Otherwise, the keeper would have saved it. For me, that goal is even better than the Liverpool free kick. I can show you after, but it's that ball placement, and then his celebration, he's even shocked as well.
Yeah.
For me, he just does things that physics can't describe, words can't describe. And the World Cup, for me, epitomised his ability. Yeah. And I'm so happy that he won it. So then people might say, oh, it still doesn't end the debate. Okay, fine. For me, I don't think there really was a debate, but there's no need to put it as a debate. Let's appreciate both of them.
That's the thing. I mean, they're both exceptional players. Obviously, Ronaldo has strengths that Messi doesn't have, and Messi has strengths that Ronaldo doesn't have. But as a fan, and I'm a United fan as well, but as a fan of football, just watching Messi made your jaw drop to the ground. I mean, obviously, Ronaldo's had moments where he's done things, especially when he was at United, where you're like, whoa, that was so cool. Like when he was wasting time on the wing against Arsenal. I mean, he was just taking the piss out of the Arsenal team at that point. I don't know who kicked his legs, but back then he was like a character that loved to entertain. He was a magician. Obviously, when he went to Real Madrid, he was banging in goals for fun, and just the aura that he had at Real Madrid. I mean, he is still the largest public figure in the world if we're talking about celebrity status.
Exactly, and of course, Ronaldo did a lot of things that you can't describe as well. Bicycle kick against Juventus in a crucial moment. The hat-trick against Atletico Madrid with Juventus when they were 2-0 down and Simeone did that explicit celebration. And then he does... Ronaldo,
would you say he's the most clutch player of all time?
You could call him as the clutch as well, yeah, of course, 100%, because it's like whenever you think of someone to arrive in the right moment, it's Ronaldo.
He always does it, doesn't he?
It just feels like if he's on the pitch, especially I'm talking Zinedine Zidane, Real Madrid time, whenever he was on the pitch, there was always a way out for Real Madrid. Yes, you could say that the same for Messi and Barcelona as well. But I just feel like Ronaldo, it's just like even when it's 0-0 scrappy game, he'll score a header. Even it's a scrappy header, but it's Ronaldo. Other players can't do that.
I mean, I just think about his time at United most recently. I think it was against, was it Villarreal or Valencia?
Oh yeah,
header.
It was Champions League.
Champions League, yeah.
He scored a hat-trick or something in that game.
I think Luke Shaw crossed it in. I don't know if it was against Villarreal or Valencia, one of them.
And at the age of 35, 36,
he jumped
in
so
Europe,
high.
In Europe to do it, for me, it's incredible how much he's managed to achieve, and that's why Messi and Ronaldo for me are two different, like they're a separate topic. Then we could talk about the other players, and then if you want me to pick between Messi or Ronaldo, I'd have to go more for the natural player than Ronaldo.
I don't personally think we'll ever see a Lionel Messi again.
Yeah, it's especially with the consistency. Even like in 2012, 91 goals in a calendar year. And there was a moment for me, so 2012, now it's 2024, so I was 10, 11 years old. I remember December 2012, in the final game, he had in the final, just before the year would end, so there were 2 games left before the Christmas break. Messi had 86 goals and he had an injury. And he had slowly recovered, but he wasn't fully fit. And in those 2 games, he scored a hat-trick to make it 89 goals, and then he scored another hat-trick to make it, or he scored another 2 goals to make it 91. He scored 5 goals in 2 games with a slight injury, without being fully fit. And for me, that's when I was like,
alien, yeah.
Because the record was 86, Gerd Müller. And Messi might be, and a lot of people say Messi's not competitive, he doesn't have that mentality of Ronaldo. But for me, that shows how much mentality you have to sort of be injured and say, I'm still going to go.
All you had to do was look at him in the World Cup to see his mentality.
Exactly. Saudi Arabia, after that game, I'm thinking, is this it for Argentina? And in the Mexico game, for 60 minutes, Argentina played so nervously. It was 0-0. And if they had drawn that game, they would have been out of the group, done. And then Messi, out of nowhere, scores that goal from outside the box, bottom corner, and then everyone knows that goal sprung Argentina into life until they won the whole tournament.
It was in the books for him. I mean, I think even the opposition team was probably thinking, this is Messi's year. Like, we can't do anything about it. I mean, that he just found chances out of nothing. I think that was... Which goal was it when Di Maria passed it to Messi and Messi slotted it in? I think it was towards... Was it quarter-final or semi-final? I remember Di Maria passed it to Messi and Messi just basically passed it in. It was...
Yeah.
It was incredible watching it.
And then the World Cup, the actual final.
The final itself.
I don't think I've been stressed out.
I'd have to say that's probably the best final in recent history.
Yeah.
Just because of how chaotic it was.
And that's the thing. It goes back to what we had discussed. Like, that's the football that we really enjoy. And that's the old school football, 2007, 8, 9. But now, if Pep Guardiola's watching that, he's thinking, no, why is it so open? We want control, we want this, we want that. But that sort of game, like, it was end to end, and it wasn't scrappy. It was pure quality from both teams. And that's what football is.
Yeah.
That last minute save from the goalkeeper, Emi Martinez.
I think those fans in that stadium were probably the luckiest fans ever. I mean, just to see Messi's probably final performance on the big stage, and to see him, arguably the greatest player in history, to lift that World Cup, they got their money's worth. Even if it was 10,000 or 15,000, or however much it cost. I mean, I just remember the pictures after the game, Messi holding the
just
World Cup.
Just the whole thing, yeah.
It just, he completed football.
And Messi wasn't ever thinking, I need to win this to establish myself as the greatest of all time. He just wanted it because that's him as a human being. It's his country. He had so many opportunities to play for Spain. If he played for Spain, 1 World Cup, 2 Euros, done.
Yeah, exactly.
But he thought, I need to do it with my national team. After so much suffering, in 2014, 15, reaching a World Cup final for the second time, that's unheard of. How has a player managed to do it? And there's an 8-year time span. It's not 4 years, it's 8 years. You've gone from your peak at 28 to another peak at 35. And it's incredible. Like,
and obviously Maradona as well passed away recently. I think it was just before the World Cup or something. Or
it was 2021, yeah.
2021 was it? Yeah. Okay, so
it's like a tribute.
There was an element of, because at the end I think he dedicated the award to Maradona, and Maradona didn't get to see that, unfortunately. I mean, he was a passionate fan of Argentina, and obviously he coached the team for a while. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll see another Lionel Messi. What a player he was. But going back to obviously your coaching, your Sunday League coaching, what are the 3 characteristics? If someone was watching this right now thinking, right, I want to improve my game, what's the top 3 pieces of advice that you'd give them?
Study the game. And by studying, I don't mean just watch a full football match like a spectator. Watch the player who plays in your position, who plays similar to you. So don't just watch a left winger who's very quick, but you're not the quickest winger. Watch a player, so if you're not a very quick winger, watch a player who's not very quick but plays on the wing in the pro game. And forget what he does on the ball, watch him off the ball. That's step number 1. So game IQ. Because once you understand that, then a lot of things fall into place. Because as a footballer, you've got to realise, when you're playing football, you have the majority of the game without the ball. You spend probably 1 minute in total touching the ball. Every time you get it, it's 10 seconds of play, or even 2 seconds of play, touch play. And if you add that up in 90 minutes, it probably ends up being 1 minute or 2 minutes. So understand off the ball, movements, positioning, rotations. That's actually potentially more important than what you do on the ball, because that forms the foundations to allow you to receive the ball in places where you can express yourself. So game IQ, game understanding, game intelligence, that's the priority. Understanding the mentality. The second bit, I've just said it, mentality as in the confidence aspect. So the first bit is the game IQ, but you could be the smartest player in the world. First minute of the game, you have a bad touch, all goes out the window, you're playing nervous, you're playing scared. The second bit is resilience. Confidence to say, look, not a single game will ever define me as a footballer, because what I do behind the scenes is what defines me. Kobe Bryant himself said it. I'm not saying it. He said it's the journey that matters, not the destination. Because the journey really shapes the destination. You can't just become a good footballer by just playing well. What does playing well mean? It means doing the game IQ, studying the game, and then realizing, thinking to yourself, meditating even, saying, okay, I could play 5 bad passes in a row, but not a single move is linked, which means my 6th pass could be an assist in the 90th minute that wins us the trophy, for example. Mm-hmm. So those 5 bad passes means absolutely nothing and does not influence my next play. That's another thing that I've come to the realization in the past 3 years that I had wished I had known earlier and realized earlier. No move is ever linked. No game will ever define you as a footballer. That's the resilience, mental strength, persistence, resilience to adversity aspect, really. So game IQ, resilience, the sort of mental grit to say, I've made so many mistakes, I don't care, I'm coming back. Give me the ball. Where is it? It's always the next move. Done, next. Done, next. Done, next. The final bit is enjoyment, creativity. So don't ever let that creative footballer aspect of you die. So yes, you have to adapt to the coach's needs, and you have to try your best to adapt to play. And then you'll know, having done your game analysis, having studied yourself and realised how confident you can be, that there'll be moments in games where you play like the true footballer that you were within, that creative spark that you had. So that creative spark doesn't die unless you allow it to, just by conforming to the coach. You conform to the coach, then there will be moments. The more you conform to the coach, the more you play. The more you position yourself in places where you can express yourself. But in order to express yourself, you need to have the confidence and the game understanding.
They all interlink.
They're all linked. And notice how I haven't said anything about going to the gym, the fitness aspect, because that's all part of the game understanding, basically. Because when you study the game, you realise, oh, I need to be fit to make this run 90 minutes. I need to have this technique, so I need to do it. So it all comes down to game understanding, mentality, resilience, and making sure that the true footballer doesn't die within, really. That's, for me, the 3 keys.
That's brilliant. Well, you heard it there. That's fantastic. And in terms of you personally and your coaching, where do you want to take it? That's an interesting question. Now, I'm at the stage where the growth has been a bit too quick. I'm not going to say for my liking, but for my expectations. Yeah.
So I haven't really figured out where I want to go, like in a concrete form. So I'm at a stage where I'm just experiencing different opportunities and seeing where that takes me. For example, this opportunity here, a future opportunity coming up. And then I think the more I say yes to opportunities that I think will help me, the more my destination will figure itself out. Because I'm on that trajectory where I feel like I am on my purpose. So what Jay Shetty said about passion and serving others, I feel like I found this fine line between it. Ideally, professional coaching. Why not? In the far future, not in the near future, but as I gain more experience, coaching a proper serious team, seeing how much I achieve, that will give me enough feedback. If I see that's not for me because there's too much stress, for example, which I think I can handle, but you never know until you experience it. Private player mentoring, professional players, I analyse their professional games, one-on-one. So I'm just on that path right now where I'm just saying yes to opportunities, thinking more about what I can do to offer to the football community, because I honestly want to be the biggest football influencer or biggest football presence out there online. Because my ultimate message is to be the coach that I never had. And
that's brilliant to hear. And you're reaping the rewards of your labour. I mean, the recent growth that you've had is absolutely incredible. I'm going to link all of his socials down below just so that you guys can see it. And by the time you look back at this video, he probably would have grown even more. So that's amazing to hear. And I like what you said about just, I'm going to have fun and see where it goes. Because I think a lot of people lose sight of that, especially when they pursue something. They let the repetition of it drain the enjoyment.
But that's the thing. If you're doing repetition in a thing that you've enjoyed since the age of 4, it's not seen as work. It's not. So, for example, yourself posting very valuable, priceless content on, self-improvement, mentality, all of those aspects that categorize a human being, that lay the foundations for a positive life. That's what you enjoy, because that's the sort of purpose you're going towards. So I'm pretty sure you don't see it as work to say, oh, I have to do it again.
Exactly.
You just see it as Ali Ben-Hariz helping another human being. And that's the way I see myself online. And as you said, repetition in what you enjoy and what you feel naturally inclined towards is where, there's effortless and limitless energy, really. I don't feel tired doing it.
Absolutely. And obviously, it's clearly visible by the amount of videos you're making. And I can see that you're locked in when you're making the videos. I can see that you're speaking from the heart, not just, I got to schedule a video and do it. And this is why, I coach a lot of people online when it comes to creating content.
Okay.
And a lot of them want to make videos because they want to get famous and get a lot of money, basically. And I always stop them in their tracks and tell them, hey, listen, if that's what you're going to be doing this for, you might as well give up now, because it's not easy. It's not easy to make hundreds of videos a year. I think people think that making content is very easy because all you need to do is record. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it becomes very difficult.
And
if
it
you're doing
becomes
it for
obvious in the long
monetization,
run. It becomes obvious in the long run as well.
Yeah, exactly.
From the way you speak, from your persona, from the extent to which you constantly promote what you're selling online.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen so many influencers do that, and then you suddenly lose respect for them.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, he's one of them, isn't he? Or she, you know?
And I think the way to kill that is by longevity.
Yes.
Because if you've been making videos with no major rewards
Yes.
for 2 years, and you're still doing them, and every video you make with energy,
Yes.
then people are like, fair enough. I mean, clearly this guy's not doing it for the money because he's not at that stage yet where he's earning a lot of money, but he's still making the videos for the love of the game, for the love of the craft.
It's the abundance mindset. It's focusing on what you can control and then letting everything else figure itself out. And what I've realized, which is why I'm so attached to football, is that I've learned, like Ronaldinho said it as well, I've learned a lot about life with the ball at my feet. And I've learned that as well. There's a lot of things linked to philosophy, which you've studied, which I've studied, that I'm seeing in football. For example, the Stoic philosophy, control the controllables, don't focus on what you can't control. Very simple. Same in football. It's game day, it's raining, the pitch is rubbish, the ref is bad, the opposition are a big physical team. What are you going to do? Are you going to focus on that? Or are you going to focus on what you've worked on mentally, stay calm and focus on your game? You know, it's all linked. Another aspect, the coach doesn't praise you after a good performance. Are you going to say, oh wait, maybe I wasn't that good? Caring about other people's opinions, life philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Or will you think, I can't control what the coach says. The coach has so many other things on his mind. I'm going to let the coach be. I'm going to go home because I fulfilled my personal criteria and let it be. You know, I've learned a lot of things from just football and my experiences in football, from the ball at my feet, as Ronaldinho said, that links to life philosophy. And it's something very, very fascinating. The more I study football, the more I think about football, you know, even something such as adapting to an opponent in a game. You adapt to life. In work, in an office, there are people that you don't like. What are you going to do? Always cry, always complain, always moan, or adapt? Think, okay, how can I make the most out of this situation? What's under my control? Mm-hmm. And it all goes back to that, which is why I really value and cherish football.
Now, I like your approach with football, taking philosophical perspectives and incorporating them into the game.
Yeah.
Because football is a people's business.
Exactly.
Obviously, people are emotional.
Very much so.
Do you know what I mean? And
More than people think. It's more than people think. Especially non-league, where you have a coach that sees you as a very good player, but plays another player who he's known for longer than you, just because of the past relationship. And I've seen that, and I've experienced that, and I know a lot of people who've been in non-league football in London, in England. They would relate to me. Mm-hmm. The chairman's son has to play. Yeah. Doesn't turn up to training. He's on holiday, but he has to play. Or he's on £100 a week. I'm on £20 a week. He has to play. Otherwise, if he doesn't play, the manager gets told off by the chairman. I'm paying him £100 a week. Why is he not starting? And that's where, as you said, people's business.
The politics, yeah.
Politics, emotional control, emotional stabilization, discarding the past, discarding bad performances. Once again, relationships in life. Bad relationships, you have to discard them to focus on the next one. Football, bad relationships with the team, with the coach, bad performances. You can't hate yourself for a bad performance. Just like in life, you have a bad day at work, you have a bad presentation at work, you have a car crash. You can't hate yourself for it. Mm-hmm. It's an event, and you have to move on. And the more I see it, like everything's linked with football and life, mm-hmm. and it's just very, very interesting for me. The more I dive into that aspect.
And in terms of you, from a personal perspective, what were the 3 major perspective shifts that you've had in your life? It could be relationship-wise, it could be entrepreneurial. What were 3 things that changed in terms of the way that you view life? And I'd love to dive into that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So one of the biggest things is more of a relationship one. So when you know, we've all had that heartbreak, if you want to categorize it. I wouldn't say I was heartbroken. I was just extremely disappointed. Because I know heartbreak would feel slightly different. The way I felt it was just extreme disappointment. For me, this happened like 4 or 5 years ago, and that's when I realized, personally, I've got to shift my expectations of other people, because other people are out of my control. You know, you can't accept, how do I say, you can't just take the person for what they're telling you. You have to see what they're showing you. Actions speak louder than words, standard quote, but it's actually true. And for a long time, I've just believed, okay, actions speak louder than words. But then when you're in that emotional connection, you forget all logic, because it's emotion.
Yeah.
You forget, oh wait, that makes sense. I've read, for example, Stoicism, and it says that, but this person, I'll forgive them. It's all right, because, you know, they're different. They're not different. You can't ignore those signals that they're not attracted to you, for example, from a relationship point of view.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that taught me a lot, that allowed me to really find inner peace by myself, because that's when, you know, at the end of the day, you sleep by yourself. You know, no one's next, even if they are next to you, you still sleep with yourself internally. That's why my previous page, Internal Battle, it's literally an internal battle. So to sum that first bit up, there's the expectations, judging people for what they show you, not from what they say. A second bit is, from an entrepreneurial point of view, the actual hard work aspect. So when you actually work hard, like actually, not just saying, oh, I worked hard. When you discover limits and you realize there are actually no actual limits to how much you can work, except for your biological limits, sleep, eating, and hydration. When I came to that realization, when I started working on a sort of recruitment hospitality company that I was trying to form, that's when I realized, wow, if I really, you know, get behind an idea, it can become something.
This podcast is very kindly sponsored by the gentleman at Glownode. If you are an aspiring trader who would like to gain access to capital to further progress your trading career, take a look at Glownode. They provide you with several options when it comes to funding. Once you pass your assessment, your evaluation phase with them, you have access to capital ranging from $10,000 all the way up to $200,000 in funding. I've dropped the details down in the link below.
You know, that's one bit as well. So when they say hard work, I really saw what hard work was. So expectations of people, hard work, and emotional stability. So whether it might be a chaotic household environment for a few weeks, things are happening within the family, things are happening within friendships, staying grounded to who you are, focusing on what you need to do every day and not getting drawn into family drama, emotional drama, regret, dwelling about the past, really staying grounded to the present moment. For me, those three facets have helped me a lot. And this happened a lot during 2020 and 2021. The realization that, like, I define myself and I can't let other people and their dramas affect my inner life, my internal self-talk and my way of living. Those are my three aspects.
Absolutely. I love what you said about, you know, living with yourself. You know, it all happens in the mind.
It does, yeah.
You know, the conversations that you have with yourself, are they productive or are they negative? You know, I made a video today actually just talking about how negative thoughts are normal and everybody has them.
Yeah.
But it's taking that negative thought and constructing actions that are linked to that negative thought that are not productive. You know, I always say, don't speak negative thoughts out loud, because that's when you give them power. That's when you take them from some wishy-washy thing in your head to becoming a physical thing. Because if I feel bad about myself, I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to create videos. I'm not going to ask the girl out, because I don't view myself highly. So this is why the self-talk is so important. And I mean, you've probably seen it when it comes to coaching players in football as well. If someone's like, oh, I'm rubbish, I never get a chance, you know that's going to affect their performance.
Exactly. I coach every evening during the week young, like 6-7-year-olds, and some of them are saying, oh, I'm rubbish at that. I say, yet you're rubbish. I say you are, but not forever. I say something like that to show that it's just now. I say, don't say that, you're not good at it yet. And at that age, it's very important that they know that at that young age, because that brain, if it starts catching on to those negative ideas, it will stick with them. When they're like 18, they'll still think that skill I'm rubbish at. But my coach said, not yet. Sorry, my coach said I'm not good at that for now. Yeah, that's going to help me. And I think that's very important, realizing, you know, the perceived weaknesses are temporary, and if they are your weaknesses, you own it. What's wrong with just self-accountability, self-ownership? Because just as much as you have certain perceived weaknesses, you also have perceived strengths. You have perceived strengths, whether it's your ability to articulate, communicate, make people feel welcome, make people feel valued and loved. That's fine. That's your strength. If your weakness is public speaking, so be it. You can work on it, but you need to own it to be able to work on it. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Because if you avoid it, you know, it's like you're chasing something, but it's always going away from you.
100%. I like to say, whatever it is that you're pursuing, it's not for the first time. It's not difficult. It's new.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
Yeah. You've never done it before.
Yeah.
So it's unfamiliar. But once you actually get going, I saw an amazing video once on YouTube of some guy saying that after just 20 hours of learning a new skill, you become better than, I think he said, 80 or 90% of most people in the world.
I've seen or heard something like that.
Yeah, so after 20 hours of playing the piano, 20 hours of creating videos, you know, 20 hours of, for example, working on your passing as a football player, you become better than most people just by 20 hours. And 20 hours doesn't sound like a lot.
It's not even a day, but like...
Exactly.
For example, in 5 days, that's 4 hours a day. In a day, do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people like to overcomplicate things as a way out of doing the work. If I sit here and I say, oh, God, making YouTube videos must be so long, all the editing, then I won't do it. I'm giving myself an outlet.
Because you're saying it's difficult. You're not saying it's new.
I'm finding the easy way out when I say that. But if I'm like, okay, you know, no, it's not difficult. I just haven't done it before. So naturally, looking at it for the first time, I'm going to have to brush up my skills because it's new, it's unfamiliar. But after a while, if I keep working at this, I'm going to get good at it. I'm going to get better at it. And eventually I'll become an expert. So that's the thing. People just don't give themselves the opportunity to get good.
And it always comes back to that internal dialogue, that internal battle, to say, like, if I'm avoiding what I'm not so good at, then I've lost the internal battle, because my other voice is saying, don't worry about it, it's fine, just to make your other self feel good. Because what you're being told by mainstream media or from the societal point of view is to always feel good. Hey, don't worry, just feel good, feel positive. You know, here's some junk food, here's some Netflix, just get distracted, it's okay. But actually confronting what you know you're not good at, but you know that you're hiding it as well. There's that fine line. If you can master that, then you'll find a lot of things that you can work on, and that's where self-awareness comes in. And when you have self-awareness, a lot of doors open up. But a lot of people, even me personally, that's where I speak from. For example, if I look myself in the mirror, before I knew what I'm hiding, I knew what I'm not so good at, and I knew what I didn't achieve that day. But I would hide it with an excuse to make myself feel good. Jordan Peterson has said something like that as well. You need to know what you should be doing and actually execute it by confronting yourself in the first place. And that's that self-awareness and breaking that barrier and really conquering yourself. That's the way it works for me.
100%. Yeah, you can't lie to yourself, you know. When I say you should speak to yourself from a constructive place, I don't mean from a place of just being delusional and just saying, no, you're good. No, you're not good. You know, if you're bad at playing football, you've got to tell yourself, I'm bad because I'm not practicing, I'm not working on my fitness.
That's the bit.
You know what I mean? If you're a content creator and you're like, oh, I'm not good, assess why. It's because you haven't posted a video in 6 months. Exactly.
Analyze other content creators who've been successful. Dive into it. Don't hide away from it. If you're not confident speaking to the other half in a relationship, if I'm not confident speaking to a girl, for example, I need to study why. What's inside me that is not confident? What, scared of rejection? What, is that it? Rejection, what, they say no and then they forget about me 2 days later? Okay, I'll forget them 2 days later as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, if you can't confront it and face yourself in the mirror, then you'll just keep going through life as a sort of passenger and not a pilot.
Yeah. 100%. I like to say you are either your biggest enemy or your greatest ally.
Yes.
I mean, through your self-talk, you can rob yourself of a potentially remarkable life. Or if you decide to do the work, as uncomfortable as it is, and it's never nice looking inwards and knowing that you suck at something. It's never nice. Everyone wants to feel like they're good at everything.
But that's where you have to take ownership, you know.
Self-awareness. Touch on self-awareness a little bit more in terms of how you can leverage self-awareness to become great at something. Because a lot of people ask me the question of, Ali, what is the best way to make money? Ali, what's the best business model? Ali, what's this? And it's a funny question because I can't answer that in the same way for everybody. You know, everyone's different. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. And that's why I always say it depends. I mean, you may be somebody who is very technical. You like to do market research, in which case maybe drop shipping will be good for you. Someone else might have the gift of speaking. And so that person needs to be in environments where they're speaking and leveraging that gift that they have. You know, and that's why I said earlier about your gift being the thing that you do the best with the least amount of effort. Obviously, when you're 18, you don't know what that is yet because you're just starting off. And this is why I always tell young folks, go out there, try a lot of things. Something will present itself to you.
That you naturally feel inclined
exactly.
towards. Yeah.
And so obviously for you, it was the ability to, you know, to orchestrate and communicate in a way that brought attention onto what you were talking about. Obviously, the videos that you make right now, exceptional. Your self-improvement videos and obviously your football analysis videos, they're very entertaining, engaging, and thousands of people are liking these videos. So for you, it's something that comes natural, but it didn't happen straight away. You know, when you were 18, you probably weren't aware of this skill. So when was it that you decided, like, oh, you know what, I'm actually pretty good at this. Let me give this a go. Let me give my gift a go.
It's that answer is straightforward in the sense that you just have to try it and see. You just have to try it and see the response you get from yourself, not from the external environment. Because I could post a video of a dancing cat, which gets 1 million views, and I could get paid from it from TikTok. But that feeling of fulfillment will not be the same as me teaching someone about tactics, because that's me, that's my job, you know.
Oh, that's a nugget right there, man. That's so true. How does it feel to you?
Exactly. It's the feel, and once you identify that feeling, that's like the drug that you continuously pursue. And I know that that feeling will never end for now if I'm on this trajectory that I am. Mm-hmm. If it does end, fair enough. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to dwell. I'll just reassess my options. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you have to go through one door. From one room, you go through the door to another room. Mm-hmm. When you go to that room, thinking first, in the first instance, that room is a more opportunistic room, you realise, hang on a minute, the original room was the room for me. So you come back to this room. So you have to see the other side to maybe to find gratitude for the first place, for the first instance.
Exactly.
You know? So someone could go to Japan for work because they hate London. They go to Japan and they just, with the positive idea, oh my God, Japan is amazing, this. And then they say, you know what, I miss the busy trains of London at peak time. And then they come back with more gratitude, more appreciation.
100%.
So it's, for me, it's going towards that feeling and seeing where it takes you.
Trial and error.
Trial and error, not overthinking, not saying what if, because that what if is the conditioned mind, the constant overthinking, which I'm getting fed up of. What some of my friends that I speak to, it's just like, just try that idea.
Give it a go.
Clothing business, try it. If it doesn't work, find out why it didn't work, and you learn from it and you move on to the next. Mm-hmm. Same as football. Bad performance, learn, move on to the next. Mm-hmm. Don't say, oh, yeah, I had a bad performance. Oh, I'm just never... No, don't say that. What was wrong? Identify what was wrong and move forward. Analytical mind, not the overthinking. It's like, I forgot which book it was, Monkey Mind versus something mind. But the monkey mind is the one that's constantly chitter chatter non-stop, telling you you're not good enough when something goes wrong. When actually, that's the conditioned mind. Mm-hmm. In school, when you make a mistake, I remember in school, I'm sure you do as well, when you make a mistake, it's like it's the end of the world. Mm-hmm. They make you fear mistakes.
Yeah.
They don't tell you, actually, this is a very important learning and development point for you to move forward.
Yeah.
As a more well-rounded human being. So it's essentially not having the fear of those mistakes, and just try, as you said, trial and error.
100%. You know, I saw a podcast recently from a guy called Alex Hormozi. I don't know if you know him.
Yes.
And one thing he talks about quite a lot is going out there and creating the evidence that you are as good as you say you are.
I've seen that video, yes.
You know, so for example...
Evidence, yeah.
Evidence. And this is something that actually turned my perspective around. Because for a long time, in my early 20s, I was pursuing things for surface level reasons. And I wasn't rooted to the proper reason why. And I would also give myself too much credit prematurely without having the evidence to back it up. And then I changed my approach, and I just never had a word for it. Obviously, he put it in a great way by saying, go out there and get the evidence. Since I began content creation, for example, it's one of those lines of work where the numbers are everything. You look at the stats.
It is. Because that's your ultimate way of feedback.
It's the metric, exactly.
Yes.
And I started to look at it as evidence. Okay, I could talk a good game and say, yeah, I'm a great speaker, I'm this and this. But if I have no one watching me, and if I posted 1,000 videos and not one person subscribed, then I could confidently say it's not the best way for me to express my intelligence and my skill sets. But obviously, over time, you realize, oh, okay, this is great. This is working. People are resonating. You know, you had that video that hit 1 million views. That means 1 million people liked that video. There was something about it that engaged them. So you can confidently say, if someone told you, Rafaz, you're rubbish at making videos, it wouldn't get to you.
It's funny.
It's funny because, well, you can say that to the 1 million people that watched me on TikTok, or the 500,000 people that watched my most recent video on Instagram. It won't piss you off because you know the evidence says something else, the numbers. It's like that saying, right? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie, right? And a lot of young folks are like, oh man, but I want to do this. I'm like, yeah, go out there and try it and get the evidence. Get the evidence to back up that you'll be good at this.
And get the internal evidence. How do you feel doing it?
That's so true. Yeah.
It's the internal evidence. For me, it's the feeling. So, as you said, you could make 1,000 videos and it's just not popping off. But internally, if you feel like I'm slowly like, what's that word? When you, like, it's like a needle. You're getting there nearly. You're putting one needle in, it's not there. Slowly, you can get there. But within that time frame, you need to sort of be analytical and not emotional. Because if you're emotional, you're thinking, I really love this topic that I'm making about, let's say, flowers. I love talking about flowers. Not a single person viewing my videos. Oh, maybe flowers isn't interesting for, you know, the population. No, they are interesting. You research why your videos aren't popping off the way you wanted to. Because if your internal feeling is there, that talking about flowers, like a particular type of flower, is going to be like interesting for a particular type of audience, your analytical mind will help you find the answer to get that video or to get your mission popping off. But if you're saying like, oh, the evidence says no, and you just give up, that's when, as you said, you've just listened to the external evidence and just given into it.
Yep.
You need to be analytical and then internal feeling. If I feel good about it, I'm going to continue because that means I have limitless energy, you know, effortless willpower. I just keep going. That means I'm onto something. I just need to find the last bit.
Yeah. I think it's finding the right balance between those two. Okay, because there's being self-aware about, maybe I'm not good at expressing my skill sets in this way, but if I do it this way, I'll crush it. It's not coming from a place of defeat or feeling like you're rubbish. It comes from a place of emotional intelligence. It comes from a place of self-awareness. Okay, you know what? This approach doesn't work. Let's make a change. You know, and talking about it in a constructive way, not in a way of, man, I suck. It's coming from a place of, you know what? I've done this 1,000 times. Cool. This doesn't work. However, what if I start writing? Maybe my intelligence in writing books will resonate with people a lot more than my ability to communicate. Because there are people that are charismatic speakers and people that aren't as charismatic. And that's just the way life is. You know, in an ideal world, we'd all have all the skill sets. We'd be amazing singers, amazing speakers, insanely creative. But we don't live in an ideal world. So it's about assessing, like you said, analyzing yourself and what you said about the feeling, I think is incredibly important because success, I think Tony Robbins said that success without fulfillment is not real success.
And it will be short-lived as well, because you'll get to a certain point, and once again you'll see that there's a lack of meaning. So that's why a lot of football players, when they become a coach, they see there's a different element to the game. Jack Wilshere, he was coaching Arsenal under 18s, and there's a team talk he did where I watched on YouTube, and he said, this feeling that I get right now, I've never had as a footballer, playing for Arsenal against, for example, Barcelona, getting man of the match against Barcelona, prime Barcelona. I've never had this feeling that I have. And that just really shows you that without that feeling of fulfillment, that you genuinely matter, that success, for me personally, it would be short-lived. Mm-hmm. You'll forget it yourself, or if you don't, you'll just feel empty. And I don't think anyone wants that feeling of emptiness. Mm-hmm. Because I think our intrinsic desire is to feel valued and important, because we're social creatures. Mm-hmm. And the way I see it, like, if I don't feel valued, if I don't feel important, then I've got to change something. I've got to pursue something where I become important to someone. Mm-hmm. That might be selfish to some people, but if I'm helping someone, then my selfishness leads to a positive impact on their life. Fair enough, I'm selfish if people want to focus on that aspect, you know. So that internal feeling is what I really try and connect with to see my path.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I fully agree with that. You know, I always reference this quote from Earl Nightingale: "Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal."
Yeah.
You know, when I was young and I was pursuing this entrepreneurship thing, I had no idea what success was. I thought I did. I thought success was a lot of money in the bank, mansion, you know, Lamborghini. But then I realized later on, as I matured into my 20s, that as long as I'm doing something that brings me that fulfillment, even if I'm making 30K a year working for myself when I could be making 80K a year working for somebody else, but you know what? I can't wait to do the work. No one has to push me. That's when I know I've found the thing. And that's why I have tremendous respect for teachers who love to teach. You know, a lot of people be like, oh man, you're a brokey, you're a teacher, you're not making enough money. No, you know, go out there and start a business.
Small-minded people. Because,
that's small-minded.
Because then who's going to teach that? Who's going to be there then?
That's exactly it. I mean, that, like, and I have friends that are teachers, and I've, you know, observed teachers by, you know, going to school and picking up my younger siblings over the years and just seeing their interactions with the students. Come on, Cheryl, come on, do this. And just seeing how they're loved by the students.
And you can see from their own persona as well that they're genuinely like in that zone where they lose track of time. Like they just want to help that young child, even if there's no payment.
Well, that's exactly it. I mean, yes, we live in a world now that is so ROI focused. You know, a lot of young entrepreneurs just focus on how much they're making, but not the impact, not how they're feeling, like you said, about the work that they're doing. If you don't feel good, that's the signal to change something. You know, people that are working 40 hours a week in a company that, you know, that they're not inspired to work at. Maybe management is very disrespectful and, you know, not understanding. And so they're stuck in that environment for so long, they feel like crap, but they're scared of making that change. What would you tell them?
I would say, once again, trial and error. Just try something. I think if you investigate yourself enough, you'll find something that you've always wanted to try or that you want to try. But a lot of people, with the constant distractions and external stimuli in their brains, like, you know, like especially with TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, shorter attention spans, they can't focus on themselves. Sitting in a room, looking at a wall and thinking, how can I be an impact on someone else? The person I know across the street, for example, if they're not feeling well, what can I do to help them? Because I think I have something that they need to know. So I'm going to let them know. See where that builds. I might have to go and volunteer at a charity for a while to see how it feels to be of service to someone. To see that smile on that person's face when I've handed them food that I've cooked at home, for example. That sort of feeling is what people need to pursue, because once you do that, so many avenues open up. As you said, success with just lots of money in the bank, but with no purpose, no fulfillment, it leads to overuse of drugs. It leads to alcohol abuse. It leads to going to prison, like Danny Alves for an incident in a nightclub. So those things is where you get so much success, but you still don't feel valued and important. So what do you do with that? And that's where I think instead of flipping it and saying, let me work on becoming important, and then as I build myself up, opportunities will come and the destination will figure itself out, if there is one, if we want to focus on that aspect. So personally, it's just that self-awareness, as you said, I'm not feeling good. That's a positive signal. I'm not feeling good. That's good. It's good that I know it. What do I do with this power? Because a lot of people don't even get to that point. Oh, I'm not feeling good. Okay, another beer. Okay, let's go. It doesn't work. That's not the way for you to really discover yourself.
Exactly. A lot of people, I think, just numb that feeling down with, as you said, external substances. Maybe someone says something to them like, come on, get a grip, man. You're not going to start a business. You're 45. What are you doing? Stay in that job. It's good for you. And they're like, okay. And they could have done something remarkable, but they let someone else's words prevent them from even trying. I think that's the tragedy. Yeah, it's never trying. Because I couldn't live with myself being 70, 80 years old, looking back at my life, thinking that I didn't try. That would eat me alive.
What I could have tried.
Yeah.
What I know I could have tried.
Because like you said earlier, you know what? I fancy a change. I want to go to Japan. A lot of people may have that conversation with themselves. Well, hang on a second. I don't have the money yet. This, that. I'm not ready. And then they end up getting married, they end up having kids, and it never happens. And they never know what could have been. I mean, they could have gone to Japan and had a remarkable life out there. Or they could have gone there and not really liked it that much, but at least they have a story now. This is what I tell a lot of young guys who are afraid of trying things. The worst case scenario is that you don't enjoy it, but now you have a story. Now you're wiser as a result of that experience.
You can't lose.
You can't.
You literally can't lose.
I mean, you go there, you have a good time, you meet different people. You might have a friend for life because of that. Yeah, the ROI, if we're talking about maybe like a financial reward, wasn't there. But you went somewhere, you had a great experience, and it leaves a mark on you. And you become a more interesting person as well because you've been around.
And you become more self-aware. Because if you travel somewhere by yourself or you do something that is very much outside your comfort zone, there'll be a moment where your head hits the pillow at night and you're thinking, I just did that all by myself. Wow. And that inner sense of confidence you get is unmatched with any other thing that you do. No matter how much praise you get from someone, that inner feeling that you managed to do something that you once thought I could never do, that feeling is, I've experienced it myself countless times. I went on a football trial in Belgium last year, but I found out I was scammed by an agent. I was scammed by a football agent because, they had some deal with the chairman and stuff. So I was there living in a hostel with 10 other people, and I'm thinking, this is football. What am I doing in a hostel, sleeping with 10 other people in that bunker situation, bunk bed? So then I come back to London and I'm thinking, I actually did that all by myself in a new country, foreign area. Didn't know French or German that much, so everyone knows English, but still all by myself. Went to an environment where I knew I wasn't wanted, trained properly for 2 hours, was one of the best players there. The coach praised me, but the circumstances behind the scenes didn't allow me to stay at the club. But I come back thinking, wow, that gives me a lot of power to move forward in other situations. A sense of fearlessness to say, I've done that. What else?
What else? Exactly.
What else can I do, But a lot of people, they'll look at the negative, oh no, but this. It's just, you're talking yourself out of something that you deep down know will benefit you. Because it goes to the root of self-awareness and not being aware that you are worthy of that new experience. A lot of people think, I'm not worthy. I'm just a normal guy, an employee, and I'm not worthy of this experience at this 5-star hotel, for example, that I can go to. It's a networking event for free. I'm not worthy of that. Look at the other guys.
That's so true.
Look at these other guys. Who am I? No, I'm not going. I work at a normal job. I'm not doing that. Hang on a minute. You can't. If you see yourself like that, then fine. You can't complain that you haven't changed in life. Then.
Wow. Wow. You know what it is? It's about your relationship with yourself, as you just touched on right now. If I care about me, I'd want to give myself as many opportunities as possible.
Exactly. Self-awareness again.
Exactly. Because, people ask me, Ali, why do you still make videos? Why are you still working hard with the whole content creation thing? And what I tell them is, I work hard in every aspect of my life because I love myself, because I want the best for myself.
Exactly.
It's disrespectful to me when I abstain from taking opportunities.
Exactly.
When I sit back and not go to the gym, I'm chipping away at my self-esteem. I'm chipping away at my relationship with myself when I do that. So every opportunity that I don't take, something changes inside.
Exactly.
I start to view myself differently. But when I go out there, and like you said, even if the experience doesn't materialize in the way that I hoped it would, I can leave that opportunity thinking, you know what? Who would have done that?
Exactly.
Very few people would have done that.
And even that aspect that you touched upon just there, in the way that you had hoped. What if you try your best to eliminate that hope, which is very difficult because at the end of the day, we all have an intrinsic expectation. But what if you can really restrict that and say, blank canvas, what have you got to offer me? You know, because if you can go with that perspective, then, you know, every opportunity has something there for you to become wiser, unless it's life-threatening.
Exactly.
And there's a quote. Have you heard of Peter Crone?
The name sounds familiar.
He's a very intellectual, like, mind expert, if you want to call him an expert in his field. But he said, if it's not life-threatening, it's ego-threatening.
Ooh.
And I heard this when I was watching your videos like 3 years ago. And that quote stuck with me till today, and it will do. Because I realized that if there's not like a lion in a room or a car chasing me down on a road or someone with a knife trying to do whatever, anything else is ego threatening. And where does the ego means like conditioned by society, socially conditioned. So if it's ego threatening and I'm listening to it, then I'm just listening to society and I'm not living for myself. So as much as it's difficult for me to ignore that ego telling me not to do it because I'm not worthy, I'm still going to do it because I physically have the power to do it. It's all stuck in here.
Exactly.
And for me, when I really focus on that quote, it changed a lot of things for me. It's like people talk about spiritual awakening and stuff like that. Personally, that was I don't like to categorize stuff in that aspect, but that was a big enlightening moment for me when I realized, hang on a minute, there is no actual lion. There is no tiger in the room.
Exactly.
There isn't. So anything I want to do, there's literally nothing stopping
There's
me.
nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping you but yourself. I mean, one thing that I've said in videos is I've talked about the concept of forcing growth.
Okay.
You know, when you're at a starting point and you have all these doubts flying around in your mind, force yourself to do it so that you can find out. Obviously, there's the element of evidence coming into play, but also when you do it, you feel better about it. You know, you've probably seen that. I mean, there's various different images of it on Instagram and Facebook, but that little animation or picture of the task before you do it, and it's like you have like a huge overlapping like lines going all over each other, and then after you do it, and it's like a really small circle. You know, like once you begin the task, it's a lot less intimidating. It's what happens before you take the task on board. For example, someone moving to Japan. Before they go, oh my God, I don't speak the language. It's 9 hours away from me.
Accommodation.
What am I going to do? This and this. And the hardest part is booking that flight. Everything else after that falls into place. When you're there, you need to find a place to sleep. So you do it.
Because action leads to action, leads to action. It's just like a domino effect.
Exactly.
Take the first action.
You know, and this whole idea of forcing growth. You know, I had a guy that I spoke to that wanted to get into content creation, and I told him, commit first, figure the rest out later. Yeah. And I like to put people in uncomfortable situations. This guy had a little bit of money, so I told him, buy a £2,000 camera.
That's it. That's the signal, because as you said, evidence. That's the numerical evidence.
That's a physical manifestation of the very tool that could take you to where you need to go, and it's sitting in front of you. It's on a tripod, and you're one button away from changing your life, the record button.
Yeah.
And the reason I said 2,000 and not 200 is I want you to have skin in the game. I want you to force yourself. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, when people go to university, it's harder for them to drop out a year or two into it because they've already spent £18,000. You know, just on the accommodation, just on the tuition.
To one.
Exactly. There you go. So
I left after the second year.
Right, but it was hard to leave, right? Because you're like, 18 grand into it?
Personally, it actually wasn't that hard. It wasn't, because I had other priorities in mind. And that was a big self-awareness moment for me when I realised I knew I was right before going in the first place. I knew that this wasn't for me. I went because of my ego. I was listening to society. And if my ego is going to cost me 18 grand, I honestly don't care.
So you're a rare breed because you have the self-awareness to recognise that. A lot of people just look at the cost of something. Oh, 18 grand into it. And I think if we break it down to such a simple level, human beings find it harder to quit when they've already invested.
I see.
You know, in a relationship, if let's say a guy had a one-night stand and had a kid out of the one-night stand, it becomes harder for him to walk away now because there's something that he's now responsible for. Now, of course, there are pieces of shit human beings that will still walk away from an infant, a vulnerable infant, but the majority of sensible men will be like, oh, you know what, it was my fault. I didn't, have safe sex and now I have a kid out of it. I should at least take care of it. You put thousands of pounds into a business and you're feeling stressed out because it's not materializing the way you'd hope. But you're 6 months into it and you're thinking, you know what, I've already spent this much.
That's you listening to your ego, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lack of self-awareness. Once again, in that inner feeling. If you're feeling like this is actual work and every time I need to get distracted to feel good, I need to watch Netflix, I need to drink, I need to smoke, I need to have drugs just to feel good, that means that's all. That what more of a signal do you want? That's literally it. You need to. That's the signal to reassess, because you should not be looking at the fake dopamine hits to feel good.
Exactly.
You should be doing something that makes you feel good, and that comes from self-awareness. If I've invested £10,000, if I've invested £18,000 for university and I'm not feeling good, my perspective was I can't do it for another year, so I'm going to leave. I don't care about 18 grand, because for me, my feeling is more important than artificial numbers on a screen. It's much more important than that. Because with that positive feeling I will get from leaving, I'll easily be able to sort that bit out. That's the perspective I had. And as we've said, I don't know how many times we've said the phrase self-awareness. It does come to that. Connecting with your feeling. I've invested £15,000. Oops, I'm not feeling good. Okay, how can I make the best out of this situation? Is it me not feeling good because I'm not trying my hardest, or do I know I can try harder than this and then I'll judge myself after?
That's powerful right there.
Do you see? And you really need to investigate that question, and that's
People don't study themselves. That's the thing.
Yes.
Self-awareness is the art of studying yourself, and people don't sit there and think, right, so I've been doing this now for 6 months. If I'm honest, I've been approaching it part-time. I've been doing it 1 hour a week. That's not good enough.
That's why I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
Because in 1 hour a week, of course you're not going to feel
You haven't done it for 6 months then. You've done it for a certain amount of hours, but not for 6 months. You need to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and not lie to yourself. Be like, man, I'm slacking. When it comes, the thing about going to the gym and nutrition that makes it very straightforward for guys is all you need to do is look at yourself in the mirror. If you've got tits, right? If your obliques these are obliques, right? The side.
Yeah.
Yeah. If your obliques are hanging, I mean, there's physical evidence that you've been disregarding yourself. You've been letting yourself go. It becomes harder when it's business and things like that. But you have to look at the stats, look at your input. I always say if the input is productive, the output will be productive. It's no good just working hard. You have to work productively and hard over a sustained period of time. And the exciting thing about the space that we're in, especially with content creation, is that you're one video away from changing everything. Jay-Z says you only have to be right once. And in our space, that's true.
And yeah, that what you just said is literally one of the videos I've made before. If we link philosophy and football, you are one performance away, you're one coach away, you are one training session away from either a good career or a bad career. It goes both ways. And that one away gives me that unlimited energy with whatever I do. Because we can't tell the future. So the best situation is I look at the next step and say, what if this is the one?
Exactly.
I'm going to put all my energy in this one. And whether it's that business that you've invested so much money in, that relationship you've invested a lot of time in, and you think, oh, this isn't going anywhere, then you say, have I tried my best to make this relationship work? If I haven't, let me try my best and see the reciprocation from their side. If it's not on, then fine. I've done all I can. I walk away. You know, it's that introspection, that analysis that society doesn't encourage through their constant bombardment of external stimuli, of this, of that. It's just too much.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's where you lose touch with yourself. You lose essence of who you are, and you become another product of society. You become a product, just a standard. By standard, I mean someone who knows deep down they're not significant, and they end up like 95% of other people Saturday night in a nightclub. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying if a lot of people were on their purpose and genuinely passionate about what they were doing, I think that percentage would go down.
100%. You don't want to live a life where you know you could have done more, but you didn't. So it's just important to go out there and try as much as possible, not lie to yourself, keep it real, self-awareness. I journal every day. It's a practice that changed the relationship I had with myself.
Oh, so journaling helped you?
100%. Because before I'd rely on the thoughts that were bouncing around in my head, and not all thoughts about yourself are true.
And it's just random.
Exactly.
Because you, yeah.
You know, but the thing about journaling that's very productive, and I used to think it was corny, if I'm honest with you. Back in the day, I used to think of journaling as something like a teenage girl would do in her bedroom. You know, today I saw Michael and he was... That's how I used to think of journaling, right? I thought, you know, dear diary. You know, you watch all these films as a kid of like girls in their bedrooms with a diary and they hide it from their mum and dad. That's how I used to see journaling. But then I started watching more and more clips of people like Jim Rohn, for example, who I always reference in my videos.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he used to keep a journal. And the journals that he completed, shall I say, or filled completely, he'd still keep as a documentation of his life and how his philosophies evolved. And he told in one of his seminars, the audience, that he will pass on his journals to his kids.
Wow.
Because they can see the evolution in terms of the way he changed his philosophy. And there's countless nuggets in those journals that essentially become guiding books for his children.
And for me, that in itself shows that he knew he was on his life's purpose. He was on a mission, and that he genuinely mattered. Because someone else wouldn't pass that on to their kids. Because deep down they would know, what's my kid going to learn from this diary of me doing the same thing every day? And if I'm journaling effectively, I'm writing, I could have done this, but I didn't. And I don't want my kid to read that, so I'm just going to toss it away. So Jim Rohn knew that he had actually achieved or pursued his life's purpose to the extent where someone else would gain value from it.
100%. He believed in the concept of servitude. You know, he used to say, service to many leads to greatness. And he talked about what really brought him joy. And what he mentioned was, if I could be referenced in someone's testimonial, that for me is priceless. If someone could say about me that they were at one of my seminars and something I said was the turning point for them. And that actually did happen countless times.
Yeah,
you know, there was a seminar he did once, and in that seminar he spoke about this one guy who I think attended one of his previous seminars about 12 years ago. And I think he was like 22 at the time, that kid, when he attended Jim Rohn's seminar. And then he went to the same one again 12 years later. And he spoke to Jim Rohn at the end of that seminar saying, you said something 12 years ago and you changed my life.
Though, with human beings, it's sometimes one sentence away, one click away.
And you know what he mentioned as well? He said, all of you guys could do it as well. You don't have to be a public speaker, a self-development coach. If you advised your friend on a book to read and they read that book and it changed everything for them, you can be in their testimonial one day. Maybe one day they're sat with their children and they say to their children, let me tell you about this one book that I read because of a recommendation that my friend gave me. And this book changed everything for me. People underestimate the impact they have. They really do. They think, me, what? I'm not even a millionaire yet. How can I advise someone? But you could advise someone on something specific that they need in that time. And you know what? It may not be you that's sharing that information, but you could have referred them to the information. Yeah. So when I reference someone like Jim Rohn, you know, I don't like to take credit for everything, because there are people that are far more knowledgeable than I am. However, I am the kind of person that will very happily not take the credit. I don't need to take the credit. If Jim Rohn said something powerful, give him all the credit. But if I could lead you on to him, I've done my job. You know, so when it comes to the whole self-improvement niche, you know, a lot of people want all the praise. Praise me. They're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's for the, you know, ego. I see myself as a student still. I'm still learning. I'm still improving myself. Exactly.
We all are.
You know, but a lot of people stop learning because they see themselves as the thing. I'm the guy. I don't need to learn no more. And that's why they start going backwards. You know, for me, it's a forever state of learning. And I think if you adopt that mindset of being a student, being teachable and coachable, I mean, in football, the best players are usually the ones that are always listening to the manager, just taking everything on board.
And coaches don't stop. I'm pretty sure Guardiola still analyses maybe a bit of Cruyff, maybe Ancelotti, De Zerbi from Brighton. Mm-hmm. He's still thinking, like, the way I see it, whether you're a believer in God or universe or spirituality, whichever path you're on, if you look at the way the universe is or the nature, it's constantly evolving. Every second, a leaf falls from a tree. Then, you know, there's rain, there's thunder. That's evidence that it's constantly evolving, nothing's stopping. So if we emulate that, you feel sort of at one, you feel in tune. I'm not saying with the universe or with God or whatever, but you just feel in the zone in a way. You just feel like, okay, I'm actually onto something, because you're constantly challenging yourself, you're evolving, just like the outside environment. And that comparison for me personally was a shifter. So if for some people, if it's Jim Rohn, or for yourself, if it's Jim Rohn or one particular quote, some people it's the religious textbooks. For me, it's realizing, wait, the actual universe or the nature, there's sun and then there's rain. Okay, what does that mean? The sun symbolizes this thing, the rain symbolizes that. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, it's temporary. Oh, so then this feeling that I have is temporary. Like, you start to make connections and you realize, wow, actually, it's all in my head. Let me just take it one step at a time, emulate the universe outside, emulate nature, and see where that takes me. You know?
Wow.
That was my moment for me, along with that quote from Peter Crone.
No, absolutely. That's powerful. That's powerful. And yeah, I like what you mentioned there about looking at nature and observing what nature's doing. You know, I speak about nature being chaotic.
Exactly.
You know, and Jim Rohn actually speaks about the seasons. You have spring, and it always mentions, you know, how if you were to put it somewhere, it'll be right after winter. That's a good place to put it, spring. You know, because after the chaos of winter and how cold it is, things start coming back to life again. You know, and then summer, and then, you know, and then autumn, and then winter again. And so that's the thing. You go through seasons in life. You know, you may be going through a rough patch right now, but a better day is coming. You know, I always like to say your best days haven't even happened yet.
Exactly. And vice versa. Your best days are here, supposedly. Get ready for the day where something happens and you're going back down. But that's where your inner strength comes to say, hang on a minute. If I've managed to go through my best days, look at the amount of things I've done. What's this?
Exactly.
How does that matter? You know, so it's that constant connection with yourself. It all, for me, I'm not here to be some philosopher or to be an advisor personally, because I just think everyone has their own ways of thinking, because they've had their own personal life experiences. So they need to learn from their own experiences, because every experience is different. But if I was to say one thing, it would be really understand who you are, self-awareness, and that means sitting there with that uncomfortable feeling for hours and hours without any distraction, investigating that thought, realizing what is this? It's just a thought, doesn't shape me, doesn't define me, and really investigating yourself to get to the point where you just don't fear anything unless it's actually biologically threatening you.
Unless it's a lion or a tiger.
Unless it's a lion or tiger.
That's it. Nah, I like what you mentioned there about studying that thought. You know, sometimes when you're feeling bothered, it's because your potential is so much higher than what you're currently displaying.
Yeah.
And you know that deep down inside, and that's why you feel bothered. And that's your body trying to tell you something. Step it up. You've got more in the tank. You know, go out there, take those risks.
And then you can't drown that feeling. because it's uncomfortable. You can't say, oh, let me just go out with my friends. And the next day you feel good. And then that feeling is like whether you want to call it a ghost, it looms back 2 days, 3 days.
It follows you.
3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months later, it'll come back and say, look, middle of the night, you're just sleeping or you're struggling to sleep. Hey, that idea is still there. You still have time. Go on. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, nah, let me watch YouTube. Then the cycle starts again until you say, hang on a minute, forget distractions. What are you saying? Okay, let me try it. Mm-hmm. And then when you feel, as you said, when you're on that path, then you feel that energy, that momentum. But you never have that momentum if you could be doing more, and that is communicated through that negative feeling,
Exactly.
That uncomfortable feeling.
100%. If you keep ignoring that voice, you'll never know. But to get that momentum, you must take action. A train that's parked does no damage to anything in front of it. But a train traveling at 100 miles an hour will obliterate just about anything. So to get to that momentum, you need to keep taking action on a consistent basis until things kick off.
And that's another thing. So that point where you said list 3 things that have helped you in life. When perhaps there was a certain relationship issue or a certain life issue that happened, in terms of my emotional connections with, let's say, family members or a potential partner, that's when I realized if I still take action, this event is actually insignificant. Mm. So if I still go out and train by myself in the park with a ball, I'm still physically doing the thing that I know I'm meant to be doing. So whatever's going on in here doesn't stop me from doing something out here.
Exactly.
And that's why my personal connection with football is very strong, because in those moments, it was that ball that helped me go through those moments because of the joy I have, that natural love I have for it. And that's when I realized, look, I'm in the park playing football. Yes, things have happened behind the scenes. This person did this person did that. I wish this person delivered on what they had said. This promise, so disappointing. I'm out here playing football. That's all I'm doing. It's all in my mind. And those things, when you really analyze and think to yourself, you say, okay, an event is an event. I just keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. As you said, action.
Exactly. I think really the biggest takeaway I've taken from this podcast is what you mentioned about isolating the event. Don't connect them together and form a new identity of yourself by saying, I've had 5 passes in a row. I'm a bad passer of the ball.
That links to life as well. Yeah,
and that links to life.
Exactly.
Just because you've had 5 experiences that weren't fruitful, it doesn't mean the 6th one won't be. And it's not getting in your own way of finding out if the 6th one will be a good experience or not. Because if you get in your own way, people talk about having haters and doubters, but the majority of people have none because they're not doing enough to warrant hate and criticism. And so I always say your biggest hater is you. You self-sabotage. You essentially find a way of preventing yourself from doing the work by coming up with all these reasons. And in life, you either have reasons or results. So don't
results. Yeah.
Don't prevent yourself from trying. So that's very powerful. And just to sort of wrap everything up as well, what's one thing you'd say to someone who is fed up of the way their life is going and wants 2024 to count? He wants this year to be the year that things start to move in the right direction for them. What would you tell them?
So if someone's been watching this very closely, it should be very obvious, which is self-awareness. Become self-aware. Tune yourself to what you naturally feel inclined to. And if that takes time, it takes time. Don't want immediate results, because before all the big results happen, there's a moment of peace and quiet. And in that peace and quiet, you need to say, okay, what do I want? Why am I feeling like this? Why do I want 2024 to be the big year? Because I'm not happy with the previous years. Okay, why was I not happy with the previous years? Because of these events. Why am I not happy with those events? Oh, I need to study because, I didn't study them enough to realize they were all lessons and nuggets of wisdom. So let me take those lessons and wisdom, understand that every event that happens, I have nothing to lose from. And then I have the momentum, I have the willpower, I have the energy to find something in 2024 to push me onwards. So if you're not self-aware, that's where you need to start. And even if you are self-aware and you're still feeling a bit stuck, you're not aware enough. Because once you're aware of yourself truly, you wouldn't feel stuck. That can't happen because you know what to do to not be stuck. Mm-hmm. So feeling stuck is impossible if you're self-aware, because with self-awareness comes
clarity.
That's
what it is.
Clarity of knowing what to do, self-assurance that the path you're on is the path that you really want to go on. So when you're looking yourself in the mirror, as that analogy that we've gone back to, you're saying, you know what, I'm actually sort of proud of myself for now, but I know I've got more in me, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. That's what I would say, self-awareness.
Wow, very powerful. And in terms of where people can find you as well, Rafaz, what are your social media handles?
So Instagram, The Honest Football Coach, YouTube, The Honest Football Coach, TikTok, The Honest Football Coach, and Twitter, Honest Coach Raf, with an F at the end. My other page is The Internal Battle, but for now, it's just The Honest Football Coach. That's where I am on all platforms. Facebook as well, but I'm not posting on Facebook. So The Honest Football Coach, that's me.
And you know what? He delivered some honest facts on this podcast as well. So I'll link everything down in the description below. But I want to thank you, Rafaz, for coming onto the podcast. Appreciate your time. It's been very valuable for me, you know, everything that you've been sharing on the podcast here. And I'm sure it's been very valuable to the audience as well that are going to be listening to this. Make sure you follow him on all the social media handles down below. And we'll definitely do a repetition of this in the next few months.
That would be great. And I honestly appreciate tonight and everything, because as I've said before, 3 years ago, I was watching Mr. Ben-Hariz just as someone wanting to do something more with his life 3 years ago, 2021. I remember 2021, February. Now it's February 2024. 3 years ago, exactly. I was watching this gentleman here preaching genuine facts, honest facts that really struck me as golden nuggets that I needed. And honestly, it's a pleasure to meet you in person.
I'm humbled, and it's absolutely my pleasure as well to be sitting here with you. And I learned a great deal myself.
Likewise.
You know, I'm going to be sharing some of the wisdom that you shared with me today in my next up and coming videos. But thank you for coming down, brother. We'll definitely do this in the next few months as well. And
thank you.
I look forward to witnessing more of your growth and progress over the next few months.
Likewise. Thank you.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe down below and share a comment of what you found to be most interesting from today's podcast. See you all in the next one.